calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem under the name ThatUmbrellaGuy. I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me. I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me. I'm a man.
All right. Hey there. How's it going today? Before I forget this, Rhea Norman, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you for that right off the bat. Saw him come in. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sandy Nichols, too. Thank you also for 5 gifted memberships. Ooh, those gifted memberships. Ooh, love them. And also Denise Clark Custom Art. Thank you also. 5 gifted memberships. Man, what a way to kick off the day. Thank you. It has been an interesting one. Did you know? So you may have noticed something. I actually haven't had a video for 3 days. Can you guess why? Because I got a fake strike. Right after the copyright claim on my video about Greg Ellis getting swatted. I don't know if you remember that whole incident or not, but yeah, right after he got swatted, I had sometimes these things come in bunches, but I had a fake strike move through, so it took 3 days to clear that sucker. So if you have noticed an absence of videos for that time, that is why. Yes, that is indeed why. Fun times, huh? Crazy people, man. It's amazing like how much some people actually hate you there. But we got that one cleared. Still got the MCN arguing over the copyright claim, because when Greg Ellis was swatted, he filmed all of that himself, and yet somebody tried to copyright claim that wasn't him. Somebody that he named during that video. Yeah, they don't have ownership to it, and they have a problem with it. Well, they could take it up with the source video. What a mess there. What's up, Mark? Thanks for the 5. Hey, Tuck. I was 1 Tuggernaut year old yesterday. You haven't pissed me off yet. Give me time, baby. No, congratulations there. 1 Tuggernaut year old. That's amazing. Glad to see you there. Thank you. Tammy, thanks for 5. I saw JD's DR spot during the Dodger Yankee game on ESPN's Major League Baseball primetime last night. That's awesome, too. See, that's one of the beautiful things about what we've been watching over the last few months. You know, we've watched the teeter-totter of careers. And today I did a video talking about a discussion. Like I kind of want to add to this because I think it's such an absurdity that you have. I mean, you have AH still, there's this idea, and there actually are places calling this out too. But there was this idea that AH was going to move on, right? She was done. It was all over. She was just going to go and live her happy life. And yet, book deal, baby. $15 million. And you can tell when you look at some of the statements about this, you can actually tell that it looks like PR gone awry, is what it looks like. It actually looks like the bad side of PR, the ugly side when you yourself mess up your PR. Let me pull up the original article on that, actually. So Radar Online is the one that was talking about this. They actually brought this up. And like I said, I thought it was fascinating because this was a discussion that we've heard before. And yet you have a source that kind of discusses motivation. And motivation, well, it sounds pretty petty. It sounds like revenge. I mean, maybe you shouldn't admit to that, right? Subi Sue, thanks for the 5, by the way. So insane. I love Greg Ellis. He's amazing indeed. Greg Ellis is nice. I think that he's going through quite a bit right now. I don't know. I'm going to reach out to him and see if I can get in contact with him. I'm not sure, but he was going through a lot anyway. And what's crazy is there's always people out there that try to justify things. I mean, the reality is he had a remote camera pick up police coming to his home. They entered his home without permission because of a quote unquote wellness check. I mean, they entered on their own, which, no. And he filmed them, and I spent the other day, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because I talked about it quite a bit the other day. I pulled up, it's not the Greg Ellis portion of it either. I talked about the consequences of things like, sending the police somewhere with falsity. I'm not saying that people don't need wellness checks sometimes, but at the end of the day, yeah, you could do some awful things with that. 1 second. What are you doing? Hey, what you doing, kiddo? Okay, go get it. The little one, it came down here. She's been playing outside, and she was building. This is funny. Let me show you this real fast before I continue with this. I gotta show you something pretty funny. So she was making what she was calling heck flowers. You can see it here, a heck flower. Why is that a heck flower? Because you try to pick that sucker and it's going to hurt like heck. I love it. I thought that was funny. All right. Go do your thing, baby. You go have fun. Okay. All right. Hey, Mark, thanks for the 5. But did you just miss my 5 gifted memberships? 5 gifted. I must have. If you had them at the very beginning, I must have missed them. Mark, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Seriously, thank you. If I missed them, I apologize. It doesn't keep a list of those for some reason. And those, I think, are one of the cooler features. Look at this, too, by the way, here. Dun, 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 dun. Dead Punk Gage. Oh, that's hilarious too. Let me zoom this one. Yeah. The mashed potatoes, people obsessing over you eating a Big Mac. JT eating this Big Mac. No, that's pretty funny. You have to admit. He's like, yeah. Like, oh yeah, everybody's eating, having their happy meals. Like, you can eat your pickles. Oh, it's so good there. That is so good. I love it. I love that. Actually, one other thing too. While we're flowing through a few things, let me show you one other thing too. So we actually we have been trying out a sticker distributor, and check these stickers out. They look cool, man. They're pretty big. Well, check that out. I thought that looked really good. I mean, they're pretty nice. I like them. We got these and one other. 1 second. We got 1 minute here. graphics a second. We got these. We have some other ones too, but I thought they looked really cool. So I wanted to show them off on the live stream while we're here while I'm thinking about it. Because shiny squirrels. Ooh. All right, back to our discussion though. Back to our discussion here. All right. So as far as the book deal is concerned, I mean, this is an insane idea. Let me read you a few of the quotes here, what the source said, and then I want to just tell you how insane the idea of $15 million is. I mean, it is so out there. So the source that discussed this, they actually said that the reason that she's doing this is because, quote unquote, she won't be silenced. Now, they put in sentences here, paraphrasing too. They don't give direct quotes, but listen to what they're saying. I mean, look at the admission from their quote unquote source. And you know that this has to be somebody close to her. This is PR. This is, like I said, it's PR gone awry. It looks so terrible, but she won't be silenced. Said a source about her potential memoir plans, explaining that she was harassed online by social media trolls. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you think about this as a reverse. I said this today on social media. If I were to tell you that a man had removed a digit from a female, stamped a cigarette out on her, chased her around while they tried to escape, battering down door, even got caught on tape saying that, tell the world that you're a survivor, and also took a on your bed, we would call that person a monster. I think there would be uniformity in that. But since we're talking about Heard, even a year later, she's a media darling. Isn't that bizarre? I mean, there's just a bizarre nature of that, I think, personally. What's up, 2012? Thanks for the 2. This stream is sponsored by y'all. Indeed. Forget you, man. What's up, by the way, brother? Angela, thanks for the 10 months. Thanks for being you, Tug. Hey, thank you for being here. And Sandy, thanks for the 11 months. Trolls and randos, indeed. So, social media trolls. And of course, she goes with remember in the trial, she said that she had gotten, this is actually somebody else's claim that she had taken, in my opinion. They said somebody said something about microwaves and little ones. Again, just for the record, I feel you need to say this on this platform. No endorsement of anything like that. I do not endorse any type of communication with these people at all. I truly mean that, actually. I don't think that communicating with them, there's no point in it unless you're going to monetize one of the weirdos. I don't communicate with them at all. I only monetize them because, I mean, really, what's the gain there? And then with the Barlows, the PR, or even a Heard, what's the point? So now she says that she gets threats. Now, I would not doubt that a person gets threats. I've shown some of the threats I get, like random people online. Hell, it could be one of their people, for all you know, creating a sock account doing that just so they can say, oh, look what happened. So, I mean, there are weirdos online, but being able to weaponize that, I mean, you're talking about the entire world looking at somebody. Although I kept wondering this, she has no way of receiving messages. She actually had no way whatsoever of receiving them. So how exactly would she have gotten it? I mean, she had no open direct messages. She has no Instagram message, at the time. I mean, there was nothing there. There was no way to communicate unless she was following you. So unless it came from somebody that was directly connected to her, how exactly would you get that again? How would you have that? I've never understood that one there. Maybe somebody can explain that. What's up, Eclipse Warlord? Thanks for the 2. Tell all. More like tall tales with AH. Indeed, they actually say here, too. So they say that her plans here, by the way, when they go into this, they said, I thought this was telling, too. I should have added this, and I'll go through. She's considered sharing her truth. That's a quote. Her truth. I hate that statement because that isn't truth. And that is something that you see so many of these so-called experts fall back on again and again. Well, maybe she believed what happened. What are you telling me, that she's so mentally ill that she perceived something that wasn't reality? Well, then maybe we're talking about another level of issues here. And again, that's not a shot at mental ill people. It's saying for real, if you truly are imagining fictitious assaults, that's a problem. But of course, that's not what they're saying. They're saying, yeah, this is her truth. And when you create a truth, that's not a truth at all, is it? That's actually a lie. I can, if I look outside and I say, well, the sky tonight is red. And you're like, no, it's not. I'm like, don't argue with me. That's my truth, son. That's my truth. That doesn't make any sense, does it? But in this case, it does. The media quotes it. They quote it again and again. Her truth, and rewriting the narrative surrounding her name after contentious court wars. So they're telling you she wants to rewrite the narrative. She wants to tell, quote unquote, her truth in this. Again, I thought she moved on, right? I mean, that was the idea. Yeah. Hey, what's up, 2012? Thanks for the 2. We need a wellness check for a missing pickle. Missing pickles? No. But they also say explosive tell-all. Oh, man. I'm telling you. So anyway, they said that she feels she was treated very badly during the trial. That's what kills me about this stuff. We're talking about a false accuser that spent years ruining someone, and the script, oh, well, they weren't treated with nicety. First of all, random people aren't obligated to nicety. They're not. Now, I personally don't believe, again, I told you what I do not endorse, but nicety, what they mean is you didn't listen and believe. And screw that, screw that. You saw enough evidence presented that you could tell what reality was. But when you disagree with reality, when people also, they mocked the fake story. They mocked the absurdity to it. And you're told, people, they're supposed to have some kind of decorum. In fact, I've seen so much stuff coming from like Nick Wallis. Nick Wallis, he put out his quote unquote tell-all book. And Nick Wallis, he actually was lamenting the fact that the press, they weren't the ones they weren't the arbiters of truth. He was lamenting the fact that you and I, we actually could see the trial for ourselves. Any journalist that thinks that at all, that just tells you about that. Because again, what is their skill set again? I mean, they comment on everything from law. You watch the trial with lawyers. You watch the trial with people in mental health. All kinds, body language experts, whatever. What exactly is what exactly are the credentials that these people bring to the table? Journalist. What does that mean? Today. Subi Sue, thanks for the 5 too. Her truth is a bunch of lies. That is indeed true. God, what's up? Thanks for the 5. Her truth is as good as her pledge. Actually, that's very funny. It's true though. Then it adds, she feels like the victim here. Again, I challenge anybody that she thinks it's horrible because the tables turned and people actually saw right through that. She spent years gaining. She gained. She stood on the back of somebody else. She held their career underwater, because that's what merfolk do, I suppose. But yeah, she held it underwater and she hoped that he drowned. He didn't know, because pirates don't drown. Pirates have their sea legs. They know what to do. And he fought back. He decided. And everybody said that was insane too. He should have just went along. You remember that, right? He should have just ate it. He could continue his career. Even people associated with Herd's team, they were saying that. They were saying, oh, he should have just, why would he do this? Well, because you understand why. They don't like the fact, and they've made this very clear. They don't like the fact that people will stand up for themselves and fight. They just fight all of that. What's up, Clips? Thanks for the vibe. Are you familiar with the Laguna Coil song, Our Truth, The Line? Time to forget the failing of my truth seems irrelevant. I do know the band. I'm not familiar with names of songs, though. Yes, I do indeed know the band, but I'm just not familiar enough with names. That does seem very apt, though. They also add, with her feeling like the victim, that she had grown frustrated with being painted a liar by critics. This is the important portion of this, in my opinion. While her ex makes a comeback. See that's the motivational right there, right? He is having a resurgence, and he wasn't supposed to have that, was he? Hey, what's up, beautifully? Good to see you. Thanks for the two there. Journal is questionable. I think these days I found a couple. I try not to. I'm trying to walk that line because I found a couple that I thought, yeah, they've actually done some really good work. But by and large, I don't think there's any credibility to most of these. I mean, again, what do they do? Do they spend time looking at any of this? No. In fact, it astounds me. They complain oftentimes about how many videos I've made, how much time that I've spent here. And I thought, you're complaining because I know this trial. You're complaining because I deep dived. You're complaining because I can pretty much tell you about a good portion, let's just say. I do not have a photographic memory, but I can remember quite a bit in there. That's the complaint, isn't it? It's always the complaint. Allie, thanks for the 5. Ben Chu kind of called out Nick Wallis on Court TV the other day to his face. There's only one truth, the truth, and it was founded by the jury. Boom. That's indeed true. That is indeed. I have not watched it. I am trying to build up toward that interview because Wallace is on it. I thought I might do that as a video, because I think that might be fun, dropping the little elbow inch. And that's true. There was there's only one, even if the jury would have disagreed, there still would have only been one truth there, because it's an uphill battle to win that type of case anyhow. I mean, think about it. All a jury would have had to agree on is that there was any type of abuse, verbal, mental, anything. And they're saying, no, that didn't exist at all. That's the thing they never want to include. When you're saying that he was defamed in that, you're saying that he wasn't guilty of that. That's why you had so much of that trial. That's the little underlying component that they always love to leave out. They're like, oh, well, no, malicious intent, malice. That's what that is. Now, other outlets, interestingly, have been calling this stuff out. And I was kind of surprised to see this, considering, some of the outlets, I never know what they're going to do. First of all, they know the truth. Now AH didn't lose everything. I mean, she got, I would say, with more nicety than she deserved. JD was like, yo, I'm going to move on with my life. I'm not going to take everything from you. He ended up letting her out of it. I mean, you can only imagine like having to have a person that abused you drag your name for that many years, make sure that they stay connected to your life. They're still texting you as far as 2018 is concerned. Then they drop an op-ed on you, try to bury your career. They go to every outlet out there. He ends up suing the Sun. She doesn't get to she is not taken to task at all for any of her claims during that trial. She basically gets a rubber stamp on any of them. Then she finally has to, she doesn't acknowledge wrongdoing, but she did unintentionally. She's exposed to the world. JD, though, after that, she's still, oh, no, got to appeal, got to make sure that it goes, and it's going to drag on for another year, probably. If that thing wouldn't have settled out, you would have talked a year, maybe 2, who knows? I mean, really, how things are, especially you could get you could get an idea of date there, but you have to remember that we're in the era of the beer bug, and with the beer bug, everything was just out of whack. I mean, that's explains so many delays. Remember, they had arguments over shielding when people came in, over whether or not people would be required to wear masks inside. I mean, there were so many delays because of the beer bug itself. Then the rules of the trial itself, what would go on with it. So yeah, I mean, a lot of that's unsure. You never know, with sickness, precaution. I mean, more shutdowns. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened? And again, he from the first day, he was like, "Yo, I'm hitting the road. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go tour because I said everything I need to say. The world saw what I said, and they agreed with the man. They agreed with the man. So he decided he's going to move on, and she dropped more lawsuit, essentially. She decided to make it go further. So he responded in kind, of course, because he didn't just sit on his hands. He's been a counterpuncher here. And I don't blame him. I agree with that. I've always been I always think, like I've said before, somebody comes after me, I counterpunch. Rarely do I go after them first. But I do believe if they go after me to counterpunch and counterpunch and counterpunch, I mean, that's just the way I am. He's not, he's just more of a respond one, but he wanted to make it go away because again, you're dealing with somebody that just drags him. And I'm sure, I don't really know, just to be honest, I don't know his mindset in thinking after the trial, how that would be covered. I never in my life imagined that we would be talking about a year of PR. Now they've launched an open letter where they're aiming at France. Like when they say they've moved on, yeah, screw all that. Because they've launched it at the place where he has been mounting his comeback. They're not talking about launching stuff in Spain. Why? Because it's not about AH. It's about JD. So, in losing everything, that's why everything is gone. But he let her keep money. I mean, she would have lost everything. Like I said, he let her keep some of it. In fact, the insurance ends up paying off pretty much the bill for the entirety of this thing. And yet, and like they say here, they talk about this, and then they're like, you know, she earlier said that she was going to move on. And this is what they have to say about that. The defamation trial ended with JD being awarded, the awards there. For AH's countersuit, the jury decided to give $2 million in compensatory damages. She filed an appeal, but ultimately decided to abandon her case in December, noting it was a difficult choice to make. Yeah, because she knew she was going to lose. She's expressed excitement about upcoming roles. She stated in popular TikTok video, "I keep moving forward." Popular TikTok. I mean, professional. Professional. Uh, Though there were previous media reports that claimed her decision to leave Hollywood, she's set to reprise her role. I mean, really? Look at this. Look at the way they put this together. But they say, she's out. She's not reprising any damn role, by the way. I mean, how is she reprising a role? I wish they would explain that to me. How do you reprise a role in a movie that's already been filmed? That would be something new. And if you read what's been said about the movie lately, there's about 5 things that tell you that franchise is done. They're talking about, okay, you have the director, James Wan, coming out and saying, well, it's separate from. This sounds like a way to possibly give you wiggle room away from AH. They're different kingdoms. There's this and that. But the most telling thing, they've already started writing the script for Flash 2 already. I have my own problems with the Flash too, but they've already started scripting that because they consider that is going to be a success. It's the same thing that they did with Harry Potter, with Fantastic Beasts. They didn't write a 4th script because they knew that franchise was dead. They haven't started writing anything. I mean, all of these delays with Aquaman, they haven't said a damn thing about another one because they haven't planned that way. Because for all the buzz, they can't come out and say, yeah, this franchise is done because they have a lot of money invested in it, but they're saying it without saying it. Everything that's gone in. Jason Momoa also made some statements too that kind of make you think, yeah, let me light my thing here, by the way. Excuse me for that noise. Woo, give me a second here. Sounds like a freaking blowtorch. I apologize. I try to keep it way away. But this total, okay, so they keep talking about the total. $15 million. I want to point the absurdity out to that. So I was looking around trying to find a good parallel for just how much $15 million for her story would be. And I mean, okay, you have articles like this, printing money, 10 richest book deals of all time. All right. If you look at number one, you got to break this down here. And I really want you to drink in what's being said with this, by the way. Hey, what's up, Dreadnought, by the way? Thanks for the 5. Tug, hope you're having a great week so far. Sorry I'm a bit late. Glad to see you, man. Funny to see the idea of her book again. She call it the Turd Chronicles. She could be like obsessing over a Big Mac. That would be a good name for it, right? So, okay, you have James Patterson. James Patterson signs a deal at roughly $100 to $150 million, right? James Patterson, I mean, okay, his deal, though, is for 17 books. James Patterson, listen to this. It was a bargain. Patterson sells, on average, 20 million books a year. 2 years alone, it's estimated he earned $500 million for his publisher. So this mind-boggling deal for 11 adult books and 6 aimed at children over 3 years was a steal. That's a lot of books, by the way, for 3 years. 17 books, Lord, that is flooding the market. And more power to him if he can do it, but my Lord. So you look at that. I mean, she would be making more money than a guy that was bringing in $500 million to a publisher. Like that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, when you think about the audience for this, could they break even? Oh, that'd be a slog. I mean, you think about how many books you'd have to sell to make $15 million to bring that back to the publisher. Because again, with publication, I'm not sure what percentage of that actually goes to the publisher, after cost, associated books, I don't know the breakdown, but it's not 100%. You know that. I mean, the stores, everything else, they have to get their share. You have to actually print the book and everything else. So you're talking about quite a few books to end up making that kind of money, right? So I mean, Patterson, he doesn't pull that, but yeah. So then, I mean, look at, okay, the years here. I realize 94, but still, Pope John Paul II got $8.5 million, which ended up worth around $24 million today. So, I mean, it was a good investment there, but still, I mean, when you think about the value, if it's worth $21 million, that's not $21 million bucks in your pocket. Pope John Paul, you would think, yeah, he might have a little bit bigger, sales base than, say, Amber Heard. You know what I mean here? But what I know, right? What's up, Heather? Thanks for 11 months. Hi, all. She's a liability. I don't think anyone would touch her. I think this is a lawsuit. I know for a fact, I will say with 100% certainty that she would get sued. I know for a fact that she would get sued. I'll just say it that way. I know for a freaking fact that she would go out, she would target some people, and it may not necessarily be JD that sues her, but, because he may be tired, although I don't think he'd let her get away with it, but I know for a fact that there would be a lawsuit in that stuff. It'd be one heck of one because, she would definitely target. She would have to, by name, go after people like Adam Waldman. She'd have to go after all the witnesses that are in there. I mean, she would this would be a revenge tale, and this would open her up for liability yet again. When you already have the foundation to the Washington Post case, you're going to have a few problems there, because they're always going to be able to turn around and say, yeah, look at this case right here. And it's going to be even worse, if somebody else sues, like say a Walton, because that would give him his day in the court. I mean, if he decided to go that route. And again, you never piss off a lawyer, especially a very powerful lawyer, one that's really good at their craft. They admit in everything they say, the one admission that they have, they lie a lot, but they do admit that the man he's a powerful lawyer. They call him, they think that he single-handedly masterminded this giant social media coup, because they can't fathom the idea of grassroots participation. They just can't get that idea. But they're admitting that he is a powerful presence. I mean, he did construct that case. That was his baby. He made it. He very much made that case. And yeah, them trying to pick on him, that would not be good, because he knows these people inside and out. He knows them better than anyone. He would be, I'd love to see him sue, to be honest. 2012, thanks for the 2. Warner Brothers is going to give for JD no role in Beetlejuice. Yeah, that's the Beetlejuice stuff. Warner Brothers, I think JD is on to the smartest way forward. I think the smartest way forward is for him to do his own thing. Like he said, he doesn't need Hollywood. Now, I get the feeling that Disney wants him back. There have been enough thing, when you have an executive come out and say they're non-committal at this moment, they're not saying no, but they're non-committal. There's no committal there. That leaves stuff open. Then, you have the biggest name associated with that coming back again and again. Bruckheimer, he's like, yeah, I want him back. I want this guy back. He is Pirates. And he says that openly. And when you have enough lobbying, I mean, these people have power. And they know it would be a license to print money. So I get this idea that there is a want on that side of the fence. It just, I wonder if there's a monetary level. Like JD said, I wouldn't go back. And that's where our famous llama statement comes from. But I do wonder if there is just an insane amount of money that would make him think, well, maybe, maybe, because again, it wouldn't just be the money. That would be one hell of a victory. It would be. He'd be like, ha, 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 look at what I got now. Woohoo. That'd make a lot of people salty, but it would make a lot of money too. Bessie Knox, thanks for the 18 months. This is Turd's way of moving on. JD is just coming. Roses, indeed. The book's going to explode, all right in your face. Another lawsuit, indeed. This would be. I mean, if you look at the way that this would lay out. So you have it's kind of aligned with, say, a Bill Clinton. You're talking about 15 million then, 19 million these days, or say Hillary Clinton, the numbers there. So that would be aligned more in their level. And again, at that time, yeah, the Clinton book sold quite a bit. I mean, George Bush apparently only got 7 million for his memoirs. Bruce Springsteen, 10 million. The Margaret Thatcher, 2 books, 9.2 or 11.3 million these days. That would be higher than that. Again, Amy Schumer. I can't even imagine Amy Schumer's book making $9 million. I can't fathom why he would for $9 million. I cannot fathom it selling that many books, but still, it would outsell that. J.K. Rowling, The Casual Vacancy, somewhere between $2 and $8 million in 2012. I mean, oh man, Keith Richards, 7.3 or $8.8 million now. And when you look, I mean, when you go back and you actually look at something, there's a very telling thing that actually shows you what her audience pool is. And that came up. You remember Dateline NBC? You remember the joys of Dateline NBC? You know, her exclusive then, she sat down, she got asked, "Oh, they convinced the world had scissors for fingers." You remember that stupid interview? That was her exclusive. That was the first time that she had spoken. You had Elaine out there trying to do damage control before Elaine got thrown under the bus. I mean, she had gone out and riled up a few people, but she was supposed to go out and single-handedly set interviews on fire. And remember, unlike, say, that book, people could go and they could actually watch Dateline NBC pretty easily. If you wanted to tune in to Dateline NBC, you're not talking about having to go out and drop bucks on it. I mean, it's if you got to remember the time too. At that time, people were still locked in. These are beer bug type numbers. I mean, we're talking about right there where people are still, if you have work, people are remote working, people are still locked up, they're cooped up. You have more to do, but not really. And again, you have that trial has just happened. So, I mean, things are on fire. The world is on fire with that name. This is the most recognizable that she has ever been. She is one of the top 5 names that are searched. She is also listed as the world's most hated female actress and listed as one of the top 3 most hated people. I mean, that says a lot. People are paying attention. Well, the numbers come in for that. The numbers for that night were 2.3 million total viewers, okay, for an audience demographic of 0.2. Now, to compare that with other shows, they actually give you this. This was down 18 and 50% week to week. So it was down 18% for total viewers and 50% for demo rating. The demo rating, by the way, if you don't understand that, that's where you get your advertisers from. That's where you got to score. The one number matters, but the other number is the all important one. Because that says whether or not you are marketable. Those numbers were the second smallest audience since a November showing. So since it kicked off for that season and a season, or rather for that year when it was coming up, their viewer year and a season low in the demo. So second largest or second smallest in the viewership and the season low in the demographic. So as far as marketability is concerned, that was a flop. That was the worst performance that they had. To put that into perspective with other shows at the time, you actually had ABC had 2020 on reruns. So these are reruns coming up. They pulled a larger audience. I mean, in fact, you have here, they actually called that hashtag sad. I mean, they pulled 300,000. They didn't actually give us any market demo on that, but I didn't look it up. I didn't care that much. But they pull 300,000 more viewers there. They actually, it barely outdoes. They have 300,000 more viewers than Soul of the Nation, but their audience demo, it's the same. And they're actually outdone by Friday Night SmackDown. So what that tells you, with their audience demo, they have the same viewership, but their audience demo is actually 3 times higher. So wrestling was more marketable. She was 1/3 the market as far as advertisers are concerned as wrestling, Friday Night SmackDown. And then when you compare, with other things, again, yeah, You had Come Dance With Me, 2.1. It's almost the same. I mean, come on, Come Dance With Me, really? I mean, again, that tells you about marketability. That to me says that the 15 million number is an attempt at advertising. This is a desperate ploy. They're trying to grab at advertising. They're hoping that somebody will be like, "Yeah, you know those numbers right there. Those numbers, they actually matter." When the reality to all of that is those numbers, like I said, I think they just pulled them out of the air. I think that that's what she feels that maybe she could survive. Again, this is just speculation. I can't say that this is actually right, but it seems like that's her level of actually being able to survive litigation, and come out with a profit. That's it. But I mean, that's desperation. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like out and out desperation. Now, I wanted to bring up a few things with Nick Wallis too, because I found some of this fascinating, considering again, Wallace is he's been doing the media circuit. Now, I personally Wallace can have any opinion that he wants, by the way. He can go out and think whatever the hell that he wants about litigation, but the reality of it was that Wallace ended up convincing a lot of JD supporters to fund him to the trial. What happened was, back when he was, if you don't know who Nick Wallis is, first of all, let me start with that. If you have no idea who Nick Wallis is, who I'm talking about, Nick Wallis was the guy who covered the UK trial. He was considered a pretty objective source back when because Wallace didn't spend a lot of time giving opinion. And I think that was actually the smart go. But he kind of leveraged that when he came over to the US. And a lot of people, myself included, I was very disappointed in that because he had thus far gone with a very objective opinion. No. No, he went in heavy with a subjective opinion to the point that I mean, it's absurdity. Here's one of his statements, though. I think it tells you all you need to know about media, all they need to know about what they think about you as a viewer and what you can discern on your own. There are many reasons that JD versus AH got completely out of hand on social media, and I think the judge bears some responsibility. Allowing the trial to go out unmediated on TV. So, you and I, we don't have anybody telling us what the fuck to think. They didn't assign some journalist there. You didn't have an arbiter of truth. You got to tune in how you wanted. On my channel, for example, like some channels, you would have pools of people talking. Other channels, you might have one person talking. That could be again. You choose your own adventure. You could have pools of lawyers. You could have just anybody there. For myself, I did not want to talk over anything happening in the trial. If there was a sidebar, if we had a delay, if there was a lunch break, or they went to eat, I would speak in there, but you got to watch it yourself. You got to listen because you should be able to make up your own mind on this stuff. But he's saying, well, allowing it to go out unmediated on TV, whilst refusing to give sensible access to journalists, cleared ways for the YouTubers and TikTok influencers to shape the public discourse. See, what they're saying is you guys are idiots. That's what they're saying there. You don't have the fucking sense, according to a Nick Wallis, to go out and to listen to somebody and decide what is or isn't true about something. I mean, that is unreal. What they're saying is that you need somebody like Wallace to hold your hands through that, because otherwise, those mean old YouTubers and those mean old TikTokers, oh, they told you what to think, and you're just brain dead zombies. I mean, that is some of the most insulting garbage that I've ever heard. And it also dismisses the point of view or the point of impact where other people come from. Like, for example, if you watched it with, say, Nick Rekieta, that's a lawyer telling you about that. You maybe watch it with a pool of lawyers. You may watch it with other people. Here, you watch it with somebody in mental health. I mean, you get to decide what's there, and you get a different perspective. But ultimately, the perspective that matters is yours. And you got to watch this raw and unfiltered. There was nobody to tell you what the media has done for a year now, to tell you what, again, that you should think about that, what you should have wanted from that. I mean, it's like I said, it's insulting. The judge did not seem to recognize. What they also didn't like was journalists weren't given, they had to play even role with you and I. So if a journalist wanted to get in and actually cover this stuff, they had to fight for limited access. They didn't get to shove you or I out in the cold. They had to stand in line just like anyone else, and they had to earn their way in. And, they're not accustomed to having to earn their way in. They're also not accustomed to, honestly, having to earn an audience either. They haven't had to scrape and peel. I mean, when they did, look, like I said, look at Wallis. Wallis had to beg his ass all the way across the sea. And he did that by, in my opinion, misrepresenting himself. I personally think that he promised objective opinion, and he gave a subjective ass opinion. He's afraid to go out and to say what he really saw there. He's afraid. You can tell, man, because he made his mind up. He knew exactly what needed to be sold, and he did it. And again, he can have any opinion that he wants, but I can have my opinion on his coverage too. I can definitely have my opinion on it. I saw it and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I remember, like I said, he didn't go begging to the AH supporters or just to randos out there. He begged JD supporters for money. He played people, and that fucking pisses me off. It does. It makes me so mad. Excuse my word there, but it does. It makes me mad because again, people were asking for objective. All they wanted was somebody to go in like, we didn't think there would be, at first we didn't think there would be an open courtroom. We didn't know we would get to see this. I had hoped. I had an idea that it might happen, but worst case scenario, it would have been like the UK, and you have somebody go in, give you transcripts of what happens. Now, this highlights why you have to go through and you have to read everything. Why you have to look at every single scrap of discernible information. Why you have to be on your guard and on your game. Because again, you see the mentality here. The mentality is right there on display. What's up, Sandra? Thanks for the 5. Enough stupidity. I can't believe this is still going on. Am I in solemn or them? So many praise for the liar, degradation from nonsense. Yeah, I mean, that's the unreal portion, isn't it? I mean, it is. I mean, again, I figured there would be stuff on the 1 year, but for me, I'm curious. My curiosity extends to Aquaman. After Aquaman, I don't think I can stand anymore. I don't even know if I can make it that far, but I'm going to try. I'm going to, not every day, mind you, but I'm curious to the point I want to see. I have an idea of how that's going to go, and I want to see if it crashes and burns. I have this gut feeling that there's an expectation of that. Oh God, but man, I can't watch these fucking people every day. I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. I think I got a little time left in me, but man, I mean, they're just, and I don't pay attention. I rarely cover the media and what they have to say on anything anymore, because they have pretty much shown their hand. They've shown what they do. And I mean, they're nasty. You do have to challenge some of their narratives sometimes, especially when they're trying to burn career to the ground. Like they mentioned, you remember how Dior came up? They mentioned it, but right after that, AH is like, I'm quitting Hollywood. And that's all they talked about. They were like, "Oh, Dior, fuck that." It was like, "Look how happy she is. Oh, he's so miserable. Oh, look at his teeth." And, it's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Yeah. Yeah, she looks happy without a career or, anything left. She looks happy after freaking being exposed to the world. Why don't you go sell that to someone else, man? uh, you bright eyes, thanks for 10. Fun. While he was there in person, he had a whole different attitude when he was talking to the crowd. Yeah, he played favorites and also communicated like he was being one-sided on who he was talking to. Yeah, what really, I think for Wallace, what really struck me is when he would do media interviews. I found them to be severely disappointing. And you know what? You can see the impact on his Twitter. We'll look at that in just a second. I'll show you. But anyway, let me finish this. So the judge did not seem to recognize or maybe care how journalism can play a role in responsibly communicating court proceedings to a worldwide audience. Responsibly. Again, you've read the articles. You've seen how that is. They're responsible there. I mean, this is the same jackass. I'm not saying Nick Wallis himself, but I'm just saying journalists. Journalists from those esteemed places like the Washington Post. Yeah, I remember the hit piece. I got my own there. I got some nastiness there. What about NBC? What about the doxing of Laura B's husband because of this? Because she looks up art. And again, I'm sure that Nick Wallis said two things about that. He said, "Fuck all." That's what he said about it. Because you know what? He's going to staple those lips shut because it's an inconvenient truth. And he knows that that's not going to get him his next kicked down the road. So, yeah, I hope it's worth it. I really do. Because, he maybe made a few bucks off of this. He maybe got into that crowd. But, man, when the chips were down, they didn't pay for you to cover anything. And the next time, I'm sure a lot of people, they're not going to pay again because they'll remember that. Here's the reality to this stuff too is that people remember what you did. Not everybody, of course. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people that move on, but you're going to have people that remember. And when you go to do something else, they'll support your endeavors because they think that you're trusted, or they just support you, period. They get to know you. They get to know you for who you are, not an image or a facade that you broke down. I mean, he had a real chance there. He could have sold this book too. He could have sold the hell out of this book and made some real money. Some real money, but no. He decided. I remember too. He tried to hit up Waldman, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go forward with my book. If I don't get a comment, I need one from you." And Waldman, and Twitter was like, "Who are you?" But then he goes with shutting reporters out of the court. They were not shut out, by the way. Again, they had to compete with everyone else. So I got to go stand in line. And, they actually have more benefit than some of us. Like me, I knew that if I went there, like you saw some of the people that were there and how they were treated, how essentially they were targeted within the courtroom, by who knows? It could have been Barlow. It could have been, what's her face, Taft. It could have been any of those people, but somebody was targeting them for sure, trying to get people kicked out. I was like, yeah, I know how that would have gone for myself. So, I wasn't going to go there. There was no way. But shutting them out, oh, that's a rather parochial mindset. I am aware there is more than a hit of special pleading in this argument, but it doesn't stop it from being true. Again, oh, that's special pleading. Oh, I think that I'm special. I think that I'm better, but that doesn't stop it from being true, baby. Oh, God, man. It makes my toes cringe. It does. What's up, beautifully? Thanks for the two. Truth equals trust, which equals respect. Indeed, I do not claim to not have a bias in this either. I do. But you know what? I didn't sit down to have a bias. In fact, I've said this quite clearly. I don't like celebrity. I think the idea of that is horrible. I don't like the idea of it, period. People, they shouldn't have some kind of preferential treatment just because they play good people online. But there are some good people there. In covering this, though, after covering it for a while, I drew my own conclusions. I drew my own conclusions about what happened in the court, outside of the court, and I drew my own conclusions about the people that were represented therein. And again, I didn't want to like any of them. I honestly, I didn't want to like anybody. But, you know, you come to this point where you realize, yeah, maybe, just maybe not everybody's a piece of garbage that's out there. Maybe a few of these folks, they might actually be good people. They might actually try to do good. I mean, again, I'm not saying that like a JD isn't flawed, but man, I'm not in a place in my life where I could cast any stone at anyone because they're a flawed individual. I don't think many of us can. There's also a few other. Give me one second. Let me see if I can find. There's another statement from his book. I've not read his book. I'm not interested in buying it. I would probably sit down and read it, but I ain't buying it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to spend my money on that. And I don't blame anyone else who doesn't want to spend their money either. So give me one second though. I saw some other quotes here too. Yeah, there was also, here's some more. I actually pulled this up. Oh, that mofo put me in his book. I mean, here's apparently he named folks like myself too. I haven't actually read this, so let's read this together. I haven't gotten to read this yet. So I guess I get to react to this there. I did not see this here. So Waldman began to build relationships. I mean, what are we fucking dating or something? Are we holding hands? Yeah, Waldman. It's just like Taylor Lorenz got caught and actually had to redact the idea that Waldman was slipping into people's DMs. You remember that statement there? He's building relationships, baby. Waldman. I love your glasses, Waldman. Thank you, baby. Let me send you some flowers. I mean, what do you think there? What do you think? We're like chumming or something? I mean, come on. That's so ridiculous. It's funny because, like I said, see, this tells you how one-sided this idea of journalism is too. Because if a person like myself is like, I started this in comics. I heard somebody talking about having when I covered comic books, pretty much that's what I did at first. I heard somebody talking about their sources in the comic industry, and I was like, you know what? I would love to have that. I would love to have my own sources because then I don't have to rely on anybody to tell me. And if I see something, maybe, just maybe, I can find out whether or not it's true. From comics, I learned how to set up sources and how to, again, you're going to have, you saw a lot of people fall for this. I've already been through it. That's why it didn't happen to me there. I'm not going to point any fingers at anyone this happened to, but I'd learned my lesson because of fakes. Some people fell for fake sources. There were a few people there. It's a learning curve. You'll have trolls. You'll have people that'll perform disinformation. I mean, you'll have that as active PR. That's part of what PR does. They run disinformation as well. So yeah, I mean, you'd have the other side. They might do that. No, I mean, I learned how to find sources in places like Warner. That's Warner. It was interesting to have Warner and Disney come up because in comic books, Marvel, Disney properties. So you're talking about communicating with people in that already. DC Comics, That's Warner Brothers. You already have started, that foundation was already built and it had already leaked into movies and stuff. So it was just, closing the net and finding people that knew about certain things, people that had perhaps worked with JD or closer and reaching out too. Like I said, early on, I put out a call to speak to anybody associated with this. I didn't want to interview people. I wasn't going to burn them, but I did want to speak to people because I feel, again, there's some very skilled liars out there, but by and large, I've worked in mental health. I have been around a lot of people with many mental health conditions, and you get a feel for people. I'm a pretty good judge of character from spending years doing that. That's not a ooh, look at me. I just feel like I'm good at, if somebody's trying to feed me a narrative of their best self, I feel like I can kind of sniff that out. And one of the things, like a Waldman was one of the people that did indeed communicate. And he, again, when I would want to know something, I would just point blank ask. And I didn't pull anybody, there was nicety. I'm not saying I was rude or anything, but I didn't sugarcoat or pull punches, and he didn't sugarcoat answers, like history with substance abuse. Yeah. And I know that personally. I know about stuff like that professionally. So yeah, that stuff, it resonates. It makes a person human. And through that, you get a feel for what kind of thing that these folks were trying to relay. They weren't trying to gloss over items. They were trying to see if truth could actually be conveyed. Because remember, there was pretty much a media lockdown on this information. Anything that was covered. In fact, the biggest lies, when I first covered this, I was excitable about some of it. When people would be like, outlets, like we learned, I think all of us learned certain outlets lie. And, here's a good example. You would have rumors about movie roles that would come up because these folks knew they would actually get them some attention. Oh man, JD's being considered for a DC comic role. Holy crap, a DC movie, and we'd talk about that rumor. After a while, though, you learn to shut that noise out, build your own sources because, I just, again, I would cover certain things. Like, I heard from someone in the publishing industry that the idea of book was being floated around. Like I said, I could not confirm a number on that, but I did hear that idea was indeed being floated. Now, who was floating that? Was it an AH themselves? Was it PR? You don't know, but that idea was definitely being floated from what I understand. Now, I did not, like I said, number-wise, no idea. Apparently, there have been no takers so far, but I mean, you get the idea from that. So anyway, Waldman began to build relationships with people he called internet journalists, specifically That Umbrella Guy. Never heard of that guy. I know who the Umbrella Man is, but I never heard of him. That Umbrella Guy. Laura B. and Brian. These were people who could propagate and amplify the scraps of information he fed them. Oh, what a piece of shit. Yeah, I tell you. It's like you realize how many documents that I've read in preparation for that. I've covered them all. I've covered every single one of them. Yeah. Where they're like, oh, he's made 1,000 videos. Yeah, it's because I've read hundreds and hundreds of documents. I've read this case since go. Like I read UK since Jump Street. Like that was, again, I know other people were doing that. I'm just saying, when you get down to that, yeah, there's a reason that there are a lot of videos and a lot of live streams. That's because been covering it since Jump. Twitter was a crucial weapon in this. Waldman, they make Waldman out to be this manipulative genius. And that's the thing. Like I said, they're scared of him. They are absolutely terrified of him. But again, does this sound like this is objective or does this sound like subjective information there? I swear, what a clown car. Waldman built alliances with fans, answering their questions about the UK and US and complimenting them on their quote unquote. How the fuck would you know? How would you know what a Waldman had to say to anyone? Like to be honest, like how would you know that anything that was communicated there? Because I don't fucking remember Incredibly Average ever making a statement about that at all. Laura B was very limited in what she said. And again, I've been pretty limited in what I said too. I make sure it's also because, they make it out like this. It's this ongoing dialogue, and it's questions that were posed at one time. It's like, what's going on with this? And there was of course, I wanted to know about the Twitter ban, but I cannot remember if I communicated that with him singularly. I made sure he was okay with me talking about that, but I cannot remember if I communicated with him singularly about that or if it was with somebody else, because I communicate with a lot of people. So, but I made sure, like I said, people that would 100% know, I made sure that when I discussed, because funny enough, when they talk about like the emails, for example, I didn't get them from him. I made sure that they were legit though. And I made sure it was okay to talk about that stuff. So it's interesting how the assumption there. I mean, this is just gross assumption. And Nick Wallis, he reached out to Adam Waldman, but he didn't reach out to anybody that I know of with that. Most people would have told him to fuck himself too. Like he probably reaching out to me probably wouldn't have been the best idea anyway. I ended up blocking him after after what I saw in the case, because like I said, I feel personally, this is my opinion, since he gets to leverage his opinion, I get to leverage my opinion, that he sold out a lot of people because he lied to them about objectivity. Again, he paid for his way to be there on what I feel was an absolute lie, 100%. In one instance, he admired a piece of fan art and told the poster he'd passed their picture to Depp himself. In another, he took note of what looked like a potentially useful piece of witness information and told the poster, please go to my DMs, direct messages, and I will receive your narrative statement and other evidence on this. So you're telling me that he saw an actual, what he thought was a witness when he was building his case, and he told somebody, hey, why don't you reach out to me and we can find out what you have here? That is what a lawyer does. That isn't cultivating fans or placating them. That's finding out if there are witnesses out there, because he built this case. That's the giant lie to it all. This was his baby. This was absolutely 100% his baby. Joetta, thanks for the 50 there. Abracadabra. Thank you. Thank you sincerely. I appreciate that for sure. Thank you. Mashed potato goblin, too. Thanks for the 10. What was the point of Elaine questioning witnesses about you and others? I don't recall her tying it to anything other than her closing, which isn't evidence. Well, she did ask okay, so Morgan Knight, she asked about that because Morgan Knight had apparently I don't know how he made contact with lawyers and stuff, but he had apparently sounded off on one of my posts. Like I posted something about what happened in Hicksville, and he said, that's a lie. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I was there, and he ended up making contact. I didn't even know he contacted there, so that's where she brought that up. Other stuff was just I mean, I feel that they were obsessed with specific ones of us. I don't know. I feel like that was a web. I think there were 2 motives in there, just to be honest. Number 1, I think that was actually 3 motives. I think number 1, that was trying to speak to the ground that they were losing because they knew that they had lost social media. Number 2, I think that was an attempt to try to discredit, to say, "Oh, look at that." And number 3, I think that was an okay for people to do the worst, most reprehensible shit possible because, hey, there are 3 people right there. We named them. There's the enemy. Go get them. Because JD, oh, you can't go after him. Witnesses, jury, well, not yet. But those people, they're okay. That's how I took that, personally. And the other 2, I can't speak for them. I felt bad with some of the stuff aimed at Laura B, but man, I'm stoned. Like I'm not stoned. I'm stoned. I'm stoned. No. Oh shit. I mean, I'm not. I don't think people like that. I don't take them very seriously in that at all. Ray, thanks for the 10. Thanks again for this morning tug. Really made my day. Couldn't have done it without you and the Miss Tug either. Give her a shout out for me. Unfortunately, got to get back to work. Love you guys. Yeah, Ray too. I've been saying with Ray. So Ray, let me say this. So a lot of the stuff these people did, like stuff they did for me, they shut down merchandising. For example, they went to Teespring, and Teespring was like, "Oh, we don't want any kind of controversy," So Ray not only helped set up a website that they couldn't take down, but he helped streamline merchandising, and that, I mean, above and beyond. So props to him, man. Props. Like I said, he's somebody that just started working with and became a friend out of that. So, and also, like I said, when I don't recommend anybody that I don't know or trust these days. And Ray, good people. Beautifully. Thanks for the 2 there. Loyalty was tested. He failed. Indeed. I feel like that. I feel like, these are like weird personal attacks. Let's continue with that. So he continues with the Waldman statements too. Hey, what's up, Absent Alice? What's up? Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Good to see you, by the way. Waldman quickly and successfully positioned himself as Depp's representative on Earth. On Earth. Like you had to put that. He isn't his representative in the heavens. What in the world kind of garbage writing is that? Oh. I mean, we don't know if he's Catholic or not, but hey, I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? A direct and effective conduit between the stars and the fans who were desperate to help. Like I said, not a fan, not at first. I became more of a fan. I liked some of the roles out there for sure. I've enjoyed the roles, but like I said, I don't like celebrity. I don't like the idea of it. If we wanted role models, I know some. I've known some really good people. I've known people that work with child burn victims, for example. They work at St. Jude. Those are role models. Good people, very good people. But I don't think pretending to be one on a screen that would necessarily make you one. So, but it's the diminishment again. Fans of fans. At the same time, he began to wage a campaign of newspaper and magazine reporters who felt were spreading a false, i.e., AH's narrative. He did this in multiple ways, telling his followers to look beyond the words journalists were writing and try to think about who's paying them to take a specific editorial angle. You mean like Rolling Stone? You mean like Variety? You mean like the Hollywood Reporter, IndieWire, and another dozen rags that are owned by the same company? Do tell. Do tell, right? PR becomes very transparent, I think, when here's the thing too. With some of the shit I say, I don't I don't necessarily think a JD would have any problem with that, but I don't have the compunction to be a PR representative for anybody, because I say whatever I want to say. I attack institutions. I attack companies. That is not a PR person. That is not there. So what they tried to say is, oh, he waged a PR. If he was waging a PR war, don't you think he would want us to be, I don't know, nice to Warner Brothers? Maybe so you get back in the good graces. I mean, if that was the PR strategy, right? No, that doesn't happen though. And you see a million, here's the other thing too. You see people that fundamentally disagree about quite a few other things. We have representatives from all walks of life, but the one thing that they agreed on was the injustice that was there. And with somebody like a Waldman saying, yeah, look at these hit pieces. And he would point out hit pieces on Twitter. He'd say, look at these hit pieces. Maybe you should look beyond that and look at who these people are. Look at who they're associated with. Oh, man, this person right here, yeah, they're good pals with, say, an AH. Or this person right here, they belong to an organization or whatever, Yeah, that's kind of what you do, when you're digging into something. And again, he knew the case better than anybody. I mean, that's the one guy, like any go-to guy. There's some more of this stuff too. I mean, there's a bunch here. There's a bunch. So here's another one. This is on Barlow. Oh man. That's funny. Oh, okay, so check this out. You know what's really funny? They actually go after, so he went after Laura B, and he gets this wrong here. When he actually goes after Laura B for having the transcript of Barlow. Yeah, Laura B wasn't the one who dropped that out there. I did. So if you're gonna take aim at somebody, mofo, take an aim at the right person. Stop throwing shit Laura B's way because you think that maybe you can damage her because she has people around her. Why don't you aim at the right direction? Why don't you sack up a little bit and actually do the right thing there? But of course you can't because just like the people that doxed her family and everything else. And Laura's a tough person. She is. She has been through she's been through the whirlwind of that. But at least get it right, I mean, really. I like how it makes him mad. Where did it come from? Where did they get it? Are you mad because I had it before you? Is that what that is? Are you mad because you thought you were the go-to? Because he was the go-to in the UK. He had every single transcript, which was good. I actually liked that there. But he's mad because people could actually surpass someone like himself, or they could work around that. Again, you didn't need them. Do you consider, by the way, when they talk about journalistic integrity, I would say that some journalists might have argued about integrity with the UK. They might have argued about again. He controlled though the flow of information. Then he controlled the way that people. I didn't really think about that. Give me a minute. Excuse me. I know you can hear that. I apologize, but he controlled the entirety of the access to information. Then he had transcripts, he had deposition and everything. I mean, and he was the go-to. His website was the go-to for it. In fact, I was happy that was there. So I can't fault that in any way, but it's just fascinating that the guy that was the go-to, look what he has to say. The judge cut across her, telling off. I really don't care all about that. She was live tweeting in my court. But Off had no comeback. Barlow was banned from the court for the duration of the trial. The thing that excites me about this episode, aside from Barlow's extraordinary behavior, was how Laura B he got access to the transcript of Friday's hearing. I don't know. Maybe I don't really remember how she got, but I remember putting it out there. We were talking about it. There were other people that were talking about this stuff too, because what we were doing is we were doing legwork trying to get a hold of anything there. Because, like I said, I wanted to know. I was pissed about that day, and then I heard that there were actually sources in the courtroom that knew about this stuff. Sources that were right there when all of that happened and knew that there was something wrong. People found out that there was something very wrong right away. So, I mean, that's a nastiness there. Depp's PR began Depp's PR during the U.S. trial was run by Six Strategies, brought on board in the spring of 2021. One of their staffers on the ground in Fairfax was Caroline Hurley, who worked for Donald Trump during his tenure at the White House. You notice they always love throwing in the orange man, too. I'll say this. I'd like to make this very clear. I fucking hate politicians. All of them. All of them. So I don't like it when they bring up a politician, because politicians annoy me. They all do. It's a game that you and I can't play. I'm not going to rant about that today, but it annoys me. But that's always this discrediting thing. Remember, JD had a big controversy, by the way, and he's gone on record saying, that wasn't a good move. But he made some not so good comments about the Orange Man. So to try to connect him, this is what people. This is what people on political sides do. They will find something and they will eat their own. They will eat when I say quote unquote their own. You look at folks in their political leanings. Yeah. I will say this though, and some people don't like me saying this, but I don't give a shit. This is the truth. It wasn't CNN or the Washington Post or any of those places on that side of the political aisle that when flack was coming in, that actually said, "No, don't attack the fans, don't attack the supporters, don't attack individuals like myself." No, I saw where that came from. And Fox News was one of the only fucking places out of the main ones that were like, "No, this is messed up." So, yeah, they want to be like, it probably isn't a good look for you to say, "Oh, well, truth is brought to you by the other side." Maybe that's not the best way to advertise your side. I just say it, that's such a dumb thing. God, I hate politics though. I really do. Anyway, let me see that. What's up, AJ Stone? Thank you for those 10 gifted memberships too. Thank you, AJ Stone. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Fallen Hero, thanks for the 3. How you doing? How's it going? It's going good. I'm enjoying this. I'm reading this for the first time. I haven't seen this. So if I'm more talkative, I'm digesting it live. I haven't seen this stuff at all. It's just so messed up. Carol, thanks for the 5 months. Thanks to Miss Tug for sharing you with us. Much love. Yeah, indeed. Well, she one of the things here too. I mean, this YouTube has been life-changing. It's allowed us to put aside stuff for our kids and everything else. And yes, on top of that, she understands. I mean, this is stuff that's important. It's important to me. It's important to her too, because the world that our children will inherit will hopefully be a world where any survivor is actually recognized, and maybe we can get away from those false accusers. Maybe. But anyway, Donald Trump, Hurley, and her colleague Colleen were helpful to journalists, supplying them with access to evidence once it had been brought up in the open court. When I asked if Halsig had anything to do with supplying Friday's transcript to Laura B., they wouldn't comment, but a reliable source who knows the organization, told me they had nothing to do with it. I have no reason to believe they didn't do it. I don't even know who the fuck these people are. He's talking about a PR team. Like, I don't even know who they are. Like, I've never had contact with a PR team. That's a fascinating That's a fascinating thing to try to lay at the feet of people because I don't think I would respond very well to that. Just to be honest, I don't like the idea that somebody would try to manipulate me. And if I had a PR team openly trying to communicate and contact me, I don't think I would take that very well. Just to say. So for them to be like, oh, PR there, yeah, that's kinda that's kind of a giant middle finger to people like Laura B., people like myself and on, just bring it up and try to throw it in there. When newspaper commentators and Heard's lawyers began suggesting the viciousness of Depp fans attacking any pro Heard position had the hallmarks of an orchestrated or even automated campaign, Waldman was sarcastic. Should he be? I mean, here they go. They're going with the bot thing. Are you fucking kidding me, Wallace? I mean, are you I I've done multiple videos talking about these people building bots in the open. That didn't make it into their stuff. They did it in the open. I mean, they bragged about it. They made a communication bot that pretends to be Amber Heard and other people as their demo. They made a compliment bot. It hijacks posts, puts down 10,000 comments in 3 hours, did it openly. Oh, fuck these people, man. Oh, God. This is what passes for that. Iana Springs, the BBC's disinformation and social media correspondent, was given the treatment when she contacted self-described truth seeker Laura B., asking why Laura B. tweeted exclusively in support of JD. Waldman weighed in with Miss Springs, your British taxpayer-funded investigation of abuse victims is important to us. For a cyberbot narrative, press 1. For Russian disinformation, press 2. That's hilarious. So he mocked that. So they're like, oh, when they went after Laura B., Waldman mocked that, and that proves conspiracy. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So their butt hurt basically because Waldman was like, Miss Springs, your British taxpayer-funded investigation of abuse victims is important to us. For a cyberbot narrative, press 1. And it was. I mean, you know why this came up. You know why they didn't like people like myself. When they would ask me something like this, you know what my response to something like this would be? Why don't you ask the survivors that overwhelmingly support JD? Why exactly why are you fucking asking me this? Why don't you ask them? Because they're the ones that you pretend don't exist. Why don't you ask them? Because they're the ones that you say unanimously would back somebody like an AH, and yet they don't. You just casually dismiss them as fans. Why don't you do that? And yet, there's another one too. Let's see. Give me a second. I want to read this one too. Oh, I need to read some more of this, but man, give me 1 second. Give me 1 minute. I'm trying to lock in on this. I have to lock it. So there it is. Although Waldman was out of the frontline picture, he'd done enough to prepare the ground. By the time of his suspension, Waldman was known to a network of trusted influencers who would post up any half-truth they thought might help the cause. Oh, shit. They had energized a contingency of trust seekers hell-bent on finding the smoking guns to nail Heard's lies. Proving the lazy, lying mainstream narrative wrong was an incentive. Shitposting Heard and anyone who tried to stand up for her was a given. Does this sound like a non-biased person, by the way? Do you see any non-biased journalism in this at all? Do you? I mean, honestly, this is somebody that adapted a narrative and tried to make it work. Oh, so messed up. Beautifully. Thanks for the 2. Ask me. Indeed. Well, Indeed. I mean, that's what they should do. They should ask people like yourself. Indeed. I mean, I agree. I agree. People like yourself. I mean, there's an the amount of people that have written me with just harrowing tales of survival and being able to articulate what had gone on in their lives and why this trial was important to them, and sometimes why it was hard to watch for them too. I mean, I appreciate people doing that. It sometimes it kept me on track because I mean, man, these people burn you out sometimes. They really do. Other YouTubers, though, they caught on. Insight and opinion from legal commentators found a huge audience. Each snippet of quote unquote evidence and opinion thrown into the confirmation bias machine grew and monetized the followings of their creators. Millions of casual social media users got sucked into the narrative. The truth is out there. The Justice for Johnny Depp community is hunting it down. Together, we'll save a wronged man. Is this supposed to be before the trial? Because, I mean, there were commentators, but I'll tell you, like the legal commentators, they didn't come in until, this is not a shot, by the way. I'm just noting this. They came in with the trial because that's what they cover. They cover trials. You had a few people talk about that when they knew the trial was upcoming. And Ricada Law and myself, we would goof off sometimes, oh, convince me, the Hurdies, they used to get so butthurt because he would have live streams of like, Tug, convince me why I should cover this, and we would we would talk about it, we would essentially do a breakdown of everything that had come up. So he was familiarized with it, but he covered many other things. And a lot of lawyers, I don't know what they did before. I got to know them, but they weren't covering this stuff. Like they were doing other trials. That's what they do. So for him to throw them in there, like they somehow were monetizing before the trial, that's absurdity. And just to be honest too, the monetization, yeah, I'm not sure like how much money. First of all, Laura B didn't monetize. Incredibly Average didn't monetize. I fucking monetize. I run a for-profit channel. You ain't gonna shame me into that. I have kids. I freaking have a full-time job doing this, plus another full-time job. You better damn well believe that I'm gonna run a channel if I'm gonna take it away from my family. But other people, they have different views on it. And the other two that they're aiming at, like Incredibly Average, he passed up tens of thousands of bucks off of his videos. I don't know specifically like what would have been demonetized or anything, but he didn't even apply for monetization until the trial was over. So that's not a real narrative. And Laura B was actually working out of her own pocket. And in fact, she wouldn't take money to fund her endeavor of pulling up documentation. Like she wouldn't do it. There were a couple of documents here and there, like if they would be repeats. If something, I thought maybe there's something there, I'd pick up one here and there. But by and large, the lion's share of paid documentation, she went out and picked up herself, her own dime, because she wanted to know what was there. She wanted people to understand, and she didn't want this stuff to be hidden behind a paywall. That's why when we covered this stuff, I don't like paywalls anyway. I mean, again, an ad running in something is not a paywall. You can skip it if you want. If YouTube puts it there, I'm glad. But they demonetize almost everything. That's why, that certain Aquaman starlet, that's why, wording like that would come up. I mean, it wasn't like this guy tries to make it sound like it was some profit cottage industry. No, when the trial caught on, there were so many people that were interested in this that they started talking about it. And yeah, I mean, there were places that monetize, but you're going to tell me that the mainstream media, they didn't monetize a narrative? They didn't do a for-profit narrative when they were going out and they were shilling Warner Brothers and saying millions of people that signed something, they don't really know what they're talking about. By the way, go see Aquaman 2. You're going to tell me that that wasn't a for-profit narrative? I mean, are you kidding me? Are you telling me that the so-called journalists that are out there, they don't get a payday out of doing this stuff? I mean, what kind of butthurt is this? Is this Wallace being pissed off because he didn't get his payday? I mean, he did again. Other people funded him to come across there. But yeah, I believe, the particular nasty thing about that is I believe people like Laura B helped with that. I don't know if she put any money into that, but I believe probably shared because again, people wanted an objective source and they thought that that guy would be that, you know. I mean, a lot of people, myself included. I'd hope for that. I mean, that's what he presented himself with. There was no reason to doubt that until he came over and acted like a fucking clown. Wait a second. Beautifully. Thanks for the two. We're drawn to you in truth. We are drawn to you in truth. Yeah, that I think people are drawn to just like that truth, honesty. Again, I don't claim not to be biased. I've seen what I think is, and again, you don't have to agree with me. Nobody makes you agree with me. Like we disagree on a lot of things here and there. We disagree fundamentally sometimes on things like boycotting companies. Some people believe that it does damage to multiple people. I personally don't believe that. I don't think it's their fault, but that's if you went with that, you could never not choose a doctor's office or anything else. But some people believe that, and that's okay. There's a million things that people disagree on. But anyway, so the dynamite which caused this volatile market of consumers and creators to explode was the hours and hours of live footage being generated by the U.S. trial. This was nothing to do with Waldman, but he had undoubtedly primed the pump. Oh my God. Of course, though, Waldman can't take all the credit for leading the Depp fight back. Indeed, there might be some on the Depp's team who think he was more hindrance than a help. Waldman went into the UK trial on all guns blazing on social media, and in the process managed to irritate the decision-making judge. He got thrown off the Virginia case for allegedly acting unethically and was then suspended from Twitter. You notice, by the way, we have some very nondescript reasoning for anything happening. That's very interesting. Why was the Twitter banned, by the way? You're not going to talk about the mass flagging? You're not going to talk about the orchestrated flagging campaign to take him off Twitter? Of course not. Of course not. Because that doesn't fit into the social media manipulator. Because if he's such a social media manipulator and controls everything behind the scenes, how would he ever get booted offline? Doesn't work, right? Depp's success in 2022 only came after Waldman had been formally removed from proceedings. Furthermore, the online Depp community were active well before Waldman started tweeting, and they did a lot of work themselves. Wait a minute, I thought he was this giant manipulator that put all of the information into motion. How does that work then? How is Waldman the catalyst for all of this with just a few people that orchestrated this thing? But there was this community of people that were doing it all on their own. I don't understand that. That's kind of a strange narrative, It's kind of a really weird one when you come up with that. Furthermore, the online JD community were it cut off there. There's a little postscript to this. On November 22nd, 2022, Waldman's Twitter account was reinstated, possibly because of part of new owner Elon Musk's general amnesty for suspended accounts. Though, given Depp's publicly stated towards Musk, I doubt the tech billionaire had any direct involvement. How do you think it came back? That's exactly why that happened, by the way. Hate Musk all you want, but at the end of the day, I think there was enough noise about hypocrisy, about just the general hypocrisy of not bringing him back, that I think that yeah, I think that was overturned. I mean, really, they don't talk about the suspension too. The reason there was because he shared legal documentation, and they try to call legal documentation doxing. I mean, can you imagine? You had a lawyer suspended for showing legal documentation. I mean, that's nuts, No communication on that. 1 second here. I had somebody try to. All right. I was trying to see what somebody was texting. Sorry. Waldman wasted no time in picking up where he left off, calling Amber Heard's former lawyer, Jennifer Robinson, a liar. Yeah. Why did he do that, by the way? Oh, because she wrote a book about him and put in a false narrative. Huh. That's fascinating. Why didn't you include that in your book? Again, well, he just picked up right where he left off. He just out of the blue started calling people liars and manipulators. Oh my God. That's so dumb. Quoting George Orwell, De La Soul, and Gang Star in his tweets, and obliquely suggesting that Amber Heard's Instagram post contained more than a hint of narcissistic self-regard. Waldman was back, and his minions cheered. My I feel like I almost need to read some of this. I think this would be pretty funny reading. What do you think? Do you think this would be pretty funny reading for live streams? I think it would. I think it would actually be kind of entertaining. Selections from the Wallis. Oh my God. This is supposed to, again, this is what the media are just flapping their fins like seals. They're like, oh, I love it. Oh, the seals. Yeah. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? So you have, like I said, you have all this, absurdity that has come up. And there's a lot more. I mean, it's just snippets from the book there. There's just a few snippets from it. You know what people like Wallis don't communicate to? And this, I think, is actually pretty telling as well. Just give me a second. They don't talk about the nastiness, what people have had pointed at them. They talk about, they like to talk about the threats there. Like I've been watching, so I talked about this the other day, but I actually feel like this is worth discussing. Give me a second here. So I actually talked about one of the bigger harassment cases or bigger harassment jobs that has been going on. I mean, this is absolutely unreal. Give me 1 second. I gotta situate all of this so I can put it to you in kind of an understandable order. So all of this harassment, to give you an idea of just how nasty some of these folks are out here, you have this account. Now I've mentioned this, but there's a lot more that I want to add on. This account here actually got caught the other day. This is what kind of caught my attention, was an account that was faking like it had been harassed. You'll notice this is an account saying that these people here, they're creating a fake account to harass them. But you notice the picture here. They screw up because they leave in the edit button. So that means that the person who created this, the person that was saying they were being harassed, they control the account, because the only person that can edit an account is you. And they screenshotted it. They screenshot proving that they run many a fake account out there. Now you'll notice the tags in this. Hashtag like Brock fam. Hashtag I love Brock. Marilyn Manson, and of course Johnny Depp. Because again, they want to sell something. But I was like, Brock fam, who exactly is this? And when I started going down the rabbit hole for that information, wanting to know exactly who that was, I mean, it was unreal, because we're talking about a person that has been targeted to the point that their children. Okay, I'm going to show you. I think we lead with. I want to lead with one of the statements. This is the kind of stuff that is being aimed toward him with his family. So check this stuff out here. And again, you notice nothing like this ever gets covered, because if this were to reverse, if there would be people doing this kind of stuff, yeah. So Brock here is like, you can call me anything you like. I don't give a. Prove you can still be an adult and leave my kids out of it. And this, again, they're running multiple accounts going at this guy all the time. And they're like, your daughter is not ugly. I'd love to, her, come on, I'm being nice. They've taken pictures of his kid. They keep them on record. They threatened to dox his children. They've doxed him. They filed false police reports. They filed false CPS reports. They threatened to file federal reports and more. They're talking about on here, here's another one of the obvious. I mean, either they're running multiple accounts or there's just a nasty little group of them. But they're like, nah, bro, she's too ugly to do that too. Again, they're talking about with a parent doing that to their children while they've been contacting. They brag openly about how they've contacted social services, how they've gone after this. Again, I can't imagine if the situation were reversed. I know exactly what the coverage would look like there. Man, I'd be banned so fast. Like, it'd make your head swim. But I mean, okay, like here, for example, you can see that same account that has been talking about how it had been harassed. Give me 1 second. The one that faked that there. Whoops, wrong one. Give me a minute. I hit the wrong one there. All right. Give me a second. Let me close that out so I don't lock in on that again. Give me a minute. There it is. See, and they tag Brock, aka, they give his @ there. Why? Because he's been another victim of the CPS abuse hoax stalking campaign. They tell him, no, that's not a hoax. It's live in a real case. You're making it worse for him. So they're telling you, yeah, we did call one in. Oh, we definitely did. We've called in social services. We've done that. And I mean, they've put it out over and over again. Here's them talking about, contacting the police. And actually, so I asked, I want to make sure it was okay to share, because I don't try to share any of this stuff like that. But give me 1 minute. They actually gave, I can screenshot this. He actually gave no, wait, I did. I think I've got this pulled up. Give me 1 second. He actually gave a reporting incident number, to some of the stuff that was going on, saying, there's a report. We actually there's actually filed reports because of this, because this is real. It's ongoing. And yeah, you can see, here, look, here's an incident number, contract, giving numbers, giving contact information. This is on Twitter, by the way. Again, I still asked if it was okay with me sharing that, because I don't know. I always try to make sure that that's all good. But some of the other stuff that is here too. So his girlfriend, they found out, I mean, they've gone after his entire family. They dug down into the rabbit hole deep enough to, here, give me a second. They dug down into the rabbit hole deep enough that they tried to lose him custody of his children. They found his ex-wife. They dug her up, finding information about her, and started contacting her. Again, trying to weaponize her so maybe he would lose custody of his kids. That's what they were trying to do, because again, they've gone the CPS route. They dug up his ex-wife's information. Again, I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. Then they found his girlfriend. They decided, they would contact her. And when she was like, yo, I'm not hearing any of this. I know exactly who I'm with there. What did they do? They started harassing the shit out of her. So they tried to go after and weaponize it again. His ex, they tried to go after his current. And when that didn't work out, they just started harassing them too. On top of that, they're such good people that they started they found out that his brother was deceased, so they've weaponized that as well. I mean, this is nuts. They have gone after, this is one of the worst cases of digging into somebody's life and trying to weaponize every facet of it, whether it's tragedy, children, anything. And this needs to be documented, and people need to understand exactly what's going on with it. Because you know what? Like I said, I've seen these people. I know what they do. And they're nasty business. But they do it to anybody. It doesn't matter the size of the account. It doesn't matter who they are. Anybody that doesn't support their abusive queen, they try to do the worst things possible to them. And you can see that there, Brock's brother is also dead inside. I bet his brother was so tired of how disgusting Brock became. Your brother definitely isn't still like. I mean, again, you see that. You commented to me and you don't know who I am. I don't get it. Oh, you're mad. Your brother is dead inside. Not my problem. He's your bro. Maybe you can help him. Oh, you can't. What reprehensible pieces of shit. Like, I don't know any other way to put that. That's the kind of people. And of course, they don't make your books. They don't make. If I spent my time doing this kind of shit, I would be splashed all over every headline out there. Folks, they run dozens of sock accounts. A sock account, by the way, is a sock puppet. You're manipulating it. You're the hand inside of the sock puppet. So that's what I mean when I say a sock account. They're running dozens of sock accounts, and they've pointed them all at this one guy and tried to ruin his life. And they've done that to many other people too. They've doxed many people. There were screenshots. I did videos on this before, with the things that were happening behind the scenes at Twitter. They would run orchestrated rooms. When I say a room, by the way, what I mean is this: if you talk to me on Twitter, you can either respond on something, you can tag me in, or you can message me directly. If you add other people to the conversation, you create a quote unquote room. Now that room, we use rooms, for example, we have like Flashcast. You have an invite room, right? So instead of dropping a link to anybody that's going to be on, you just drop a link in that room, and then everybody can have that. Every now and then people communicate, whatever, goof off. Well, what they were doing with rooms is they were doxing. They were calling in a police call. I mean, just insane, reprehensible stuff. And that ended up being leaked by somebody that was part of those groups because they thought it went too far. That's actually happened twice. Twice there were leaks of that. And my God, who knows what these people will do behind the scenes now? Because this is what they feel comfortable with doing in the open. Can you imagine what they're ashamed to do in front of everyone? It's unreal, man. Dreadnought, thanks for the 10. AH being called Russian bots. That sure brings back memories, indeed. Waldman is like their boogeyman who supposedly paid us all for JD's PR campaign. Problem is, I never got my Waldman bucks. Me neither, I do appreciate the shout out in the court, though, but that wasn't really his fault. That was Rottenborn and Elaine. I mean, really, whose fault was that? That was AH's fault, because there was no point in bringing all of that stuff up. No point in the courtroom, rather. The point outside of the courtroom, you've seen it in play, but there was no room for that. So, Mashed Potato Goblin, thanks for 2. This is some Scientology fair game, really, type of, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nuts, isn't it? It's absolutely nuts. Brock, hey, what's up? thanks for the 220. Thanks, Tug, for your support. Hashtag DepFam. Dude, it's... I hate that you're going out. I'm glad that you're strong. I understand why a lot of people check out of the madness. That is one of the reasons that they do. People get harassed. Again, I've I've said this before. You don't have to have a YouTube channel. You don't have to be a big account. You don't have to make a lot of noise. All you have to do is get these folks' attention. I dealt with crazies when I was I had a smaller channel. I mean, they've always been there. But these are some of the craziest pieces of garbage I've ever seen. And some of the stuff they do. And again, it's all because people do not agree. I don't argue with them. I don't communicate. In fact, on Twitter, I have a rule I try to follow. I do a good job of it most of the time. I have a 3-tweet policy. And this is with the clowns, by the way. I will only respond to 3 things. I could break that, I suppose, if I want to monetize somebody. But by and large, I do not do direct commentary to these folks unless I want to laugh at one. Point out the clowns. I usually do screenshots and laugh at them that way. But it's unreal. You don't have to communicate. You don't have to do much of anything to them. All you have to do is, again, disagree. That's all it takes. Like I said, it's absolutely unreal. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, I wanted to pull this up here because we want to talk about, we mentioned Scientology. That's actually a good way of breaking over. I think everybody realizes that Danny Masterson, by the way, right now, he is indeed going to prison for a while. He's going to go away for a bit of time. There are people out there that think he's somehow going to pull off a miracle, that he's not going to go to prison. Oh, he's going. He's going to prison. There's no way around it. I mean, in fact, right now, he is in jail. He is awaiting his sentencing. You had his wife, she's made comments about this. I mean, she's talked about how shocking that was, da 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 da. There's a couple of really good channels that covered the entirety of that trial. I read transcripts and I listened to some of the coverage from it, but I myself, I didn't feel familiarized. There are people out there that, like, growing up Scientology, they understand what that cult looks like from the inside. I feel okay about calling that a cult, by the way. I think from what we saw, especially with internalized Scientology, the idea that they went out of their way to suppress due process. It's plenty, and I think there was quite a bit of that shown. The first trial, you didn't really have Scientology put on trial, let's just say. You had Danny Masterson with accusers, and that by itself was not enough. It did sway some jurors, but it was not enough there. But when you started seeing behind the scenes with Scientology, when you actually got a feel for that, I think that swayed quite a few people. At least it swayed enough people for Jane Doe 1 and 2, for what they had to say to resonate. Now, Jane Doe 3, that did not go through, but still, again, Danny Masterson's going to go away for a long time off of this. Hey, Steph, thanks for the 330. My hero. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Gloria, thanks for the 5-2. If AH ever goes away, it'll be too soon. Candy Money for the baby umbrella and her big sister. Thank you for that, too. I appreciate that. I've tried to catch the comments when they come in. I miss them sometimes, but I try to keep them relevant, by the way. I always hated, like, I hate it. I would have to do this sometimes, catch ups where you would read them all at the end, but I like them to be in the moment we're discussing. That's why I try to break stuff in. But Here's an article on that from TMZ talking about Danny Masterson kept out of Gen Pop in jail, same pod where OJ and Suge once stayed. Danny Masterson won't be like all the regular folk behind bars while he awaits sentencing. We've learned he'll be in the same area where some high-profile inmates stayed in the past. Law enforcement tells TMZ that the 70s actor, or the 70s show actor, I said 70s actor, is not. I'm wondering, by the way, do you think, here's a good question, do you think that the 70s show is actually really profitable? Do you think that the reruns in syndication, they'll actually be pulled because of what's there with Danny Masterson? Because, I mean, the face of Hyde in that 70s show, I mean, that's changed a lot of people's perception of that show. I wonder, though, I feel like this trial wasn't covered very much. There were notes about it, but when you turned on the TV, did you really hear about it? When you tuned into the news, did you really hear about Danny Masterson being on trial? I mean, you might have heard about the decision here and there, but considering we are talking about a high-profile celebrity, I mean, this is somebody that's pretty well known. I mean, he's on trial for some heinous crimes. He's facing real time there. And the media, to me, I thought they were pretty shut down about the entire thing. See, that's what most people here are like, yeah, most people had no idea. Some folks, I mean, I'm sure saw that. What's up, Hair Bear? Thanks for the 5 months there, too. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah. I mean, you're talking, 30 years is what we're looking at. 30 freaking years, man. And I'm not saying that's unfair. That's not what I mean. I'm just, hey, 30 years, he's gone. He's gone. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens with him. But anyway, so he awaits sentencing for, what he's been convicted of. Instead, we're being told that he's kept in administrative segregation for his safety. Yes, of course, for his crime anyway. He would be probably put in a protective wing, because that type of person, yeah, they're not. It's kind of interesting how jailhouse justice works, because you can have some monstrous individuals in there, but even the monstrous individuals, they look down upon this specific type of perpetrator. The perpetrators that offend against children and offend against women, because everyone has a mom. Everyone has maybe, well, I don't say everyone, but everyone has female friends, or or rather, a lot of people have sisters, or because they have relatives. Almost everyone does, and they can look at that and they draw some kind of a distinction. They can see this person offending against them too. That makes them the bottom rung. And on top of that, you're talking about a celebrity. So if a celebrity, if a person ended up, I'm going to use the word offending. If a person in jail offends against a Danny Masterson, well, I mean, they get a celebrity there. On top of that, they get that type of offender. I mean, that'd be a twofer. That would get them into the headlines. So that would be big news. It's the same reason, like, at least a Suge Knight was big enough to defend himself. Like even OJ, again, this is he's older, but he's still a former. He's not Danny Masterson. I mean, Danny Masterson, he's not going to have a fun stretch up in there. Like, it's not going to be all wine and roses for him. Depending on where he goes, we'll see exactly where he gets sentenced. We'll see how that goes in. But still, I mean, even in, it's astounding. I never thought that I would see some of these. I mean, there is a Hollywood wall that protects a lot of offenders. It also protects false accusers. I mean, you look at that. Again, there will be no justice. The injustice is that there's no justice typically pointed at anyone like that. We've seen some of the big names. We've seen a few fall. We saw Weinstein fall. We actually saw Cosby fall. Although, Cosby, again, he didn't get out because he had his he had all of that vacated because he was promised immunity and then it didn't deliver. So, I mean, we still saw him fall. That was just law enforcement screw up. And we've seen a few other names too, but still, it's strange to say. We haven't really seen a lot of younger actors. I don't want to say, Danny Masterson is young, but still, you, I mean, we've seen older. We haven't seen folks that are connected enough. I mean, it would surprise me. I'm not making commentary on the trial there, or the trials that will happen or anything. But like a Kevin Spacey, for example, like it didn't surprise me that Kevin Spacey wouldn't go to jail. I feel like he has some Hollywood immunity. I mean, regardless of what came up within the trial. And again, that's not a commentary on it. It's just when he didn't go to jail, I was like, well, I'm not really surprised. I wouldn't expect a Shia LaBeouf to go to jail for anything, and so on. Even people that I know are guilty of doing certain things, if they went again, I mean, I realize that some of the stuff too that they'll face is civil. I'm just saying, if they ended up in that, I would be shocked. Even if they admitted they had done wrongdoing, I would be shocked that they'd go away. John, thanks for the 5. Just curious what your take on this is. Masterson's wife has said she's not planning on leaving him despite allegations. If you're in a relationship, it would be a difficult place to be in. I'm not going to pass judgment on his family with that. I think it's a very difficult. I mean, when you think about the psychological bond to that, I don't know particular how their relationship is, but I mean, if we're talking about a highly functional relationship, you can imagine if it was a manipulative, coercive relationship, it would be hard to leave, but also a fully functional relationship where you actually care about somebody. It would be hard to see them in that light. I think on a long enough timeline, when you're talking about somebody going away for 3 decades, maybe that'll change though. Especially, Masterson, one of the things that hasn't happened yet is civil liability, because when he goes to jail, the lawsuits are going to start. And maybe she wants to take her money cut and, possibly walk away with something. Let me tell you, like the civil cases are going to be, they're going to be something to behold too. They are, there's going to be a lot of money. It's going to there. So it won't just be a taking away of freedom. It's going to be a restitution type. Hair Bear, thanks for the 5 gifted memberships too. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate your months there, and I appreciate that too. Thank you. Gloria, thank you for the 5 there. No, I said he should face prison justice. Let him understand what he did to those girls. Yes, indeed. Did I misread something there? I sometimes get distracted or I misread something. Gloria. Oh, no. Okay, I thought, wait, did you comment there? I was just making sure I didn't misread something. I was like, wait a minute, did I misread something? But yeah, I mean, so he's staying right now in the same area or same unit where OJ, Suge Knight, as reported, they said, Danny Masterson was found guilty of 2, again, Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2. Counts he was facing. The jury was deadlocked on the 3rd count. The verdict was reached this week. It took them a long time to come back with that. I thought, when it was taking so long, I thought that they were inconclusive about something, but it would probably be bad for him. That's what, it just, that's a typical thing. They were probably deadlocked on something, one of the claims, but it took so long. They kept coming back with questions too. And the question, like if you have an entirely deadlocked jury, there's going to be some type of evidence that's going to associate with that. But we didn't see any sign of that. We actually saw come back, they would ask for specific information, about like Jane Doe 3 or They would ask for certain testimony. You could see they were going over things, and that meant there was some kind of a contention on it. But when they started, when they started focusing on Jane Doe 3, it made me really think, man, the other two they've made up their mind on, and it's just the way it felt, the way it lingered. Thought, man, he's going to be found guilty, and that actually this surprised me, just to be honest, because Scientology is powerful. It is. We're talking about an institution that has never truly been challenged. You've seen what they've gotten away with. I mean, for years. People call it an open secret. There's no secret to it. I mean, it's open knowledge of what they've done for years. And I think it's because they don't just have social power, they have political power. They have a lot of people that are very well connected, and I'm sure they know dirt on a lot of folks that don't want that dirt out there. And that, knowledge is true power. Yes, you have the clout and you have the money, but the knowledge there, the blackmail, that's true power. And of course, they've been able to strong arm people into silence. I mean, it's scary. They are a cult. That is the you can argue that about what a cult is. You can define its parameters broadly enough to include almost anything, any kind of belief system. But truly, when we're talking about a cult, this has all the mainstay settings of a cult. They don't just have the indoctrination. They don't just lock you in. But I mean, if there's any problem, they circle that wagon. They don't allow interlopers or outsiders. It's a close. Living in the South, I've seen close communities. I mean, the South itself is a close community. But when you think about defining that in loose, I mean, in more constrictive parameters, you take that. It's bizarre to really try to rationalize. That's why I like hearing from people that grew up in that have had their family excommunicated them. I mean, it's unreal, the power that cult wields and will continue to wield. I mean, like I said, they are a powerful institution. They still are. You have some cases that challenge that, but by and large, I mean, they are still very secretive. By and large, they've been allowed to skirt justice or really mingle in injustice for quite some time. It's kind of unreal. Now, the one other thing that I included in the title too is Pras. You remember Pras? Pras is also going to jail. Pras is going to be going away for a hot minute too. He Pras, I don't like. I mean, I knew Pras would go away, but I don't like this trial in the fact that Pras is a fall guy. He is paying for the sins of a lot of people in political circles, in powerful circles. He is the sacrificial lamb to say that justice was done. I mean, when you look at all the names there, again, whether that's a Leonardo DiCaprio, whether that's I don't. I'm going to say Jamie Foxx. I hate to bring up Jamie Foxx anymore. I mean, with all the stuff that's going on with him, I hate even bringing him up and stuff like that. I hope he gets better. I wouldn't wish any of this mess on him. I hate the rumors too, all that stuff. Anyway, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian. I mean, the star side of that alone. Then you had the true power players, Ari Emanuel. Then beyond that, you had governmental powers that'll never be challenged. I mean, in the United States alone, you were talking about 2 campaigns. You were talking about the Obama reelection campaign. You were talking about the Trump administration as well. You had powerful individuals connected to that Frank White Jr. I mean, as far as the Obama administration, on the other side of that, I mean, Steve Wynn came up with the Trump administration. Of course, you had quite a few people that were inside of. I think you would probably like we actually became I guess more acclimated to the Trump campaign because of everything. They were in the media all the time. Whether you consider that fair or not, they were in the media all the freaking time. So a lot of the names that were connected to that. But there were powerful people from the Obama. I mean, it was a two-sided. There wasn't just one side to this political corruption. It stretched. It was all encompassing, and you had powerful people in there, and none of them are going to pay. All of them are granted immunity, and the only person, like I said, that was really standing up and was going to end up taking the time, Pras. So Pras, I knew that he would be found guilty. There was no way. I mean, he had the DOJ. They were pointing directly at him. They wanted restitution, but they needed to say that they were hard on crime. There had to be somebody to pay because this whole 1MDB case, they just want to sweep it under the rug, and they don't want people to truly look at it. What they want to do, and they frame this, and I hate this framework too. They frame it as, oh, that guy out there, Low? Yeah, he was just a party dude. He went out, he lived the high life, which he did, by the way, but he was much more than that. I mean, again, when you have, like with the Trump administration, for example, their problem, the DOJ, they wanted to classify someone essentially as a Chinese spy. And there was contact made, according to some pretty powerful people. There was contact made to Steve Wynn, the casino magnate, very powerful, very rich man. And he made contact with a judge, and that case just went away. On the other side of that, again, the re-election, I mean, you had these folks mugging for pictures. They were introducing the prime minister of Malaysia, the guy who went away because he went to prison because of $4.5 billion there. But again, it's much bigger than, buying your way into Hollywood. They brought their way into Hollywood so they could corrupt the political system. It was social leading to political corruption. Both sides, again. That's why I don't think you heard anything about it. But anyway, Pras, you can tell they're getting to the point where he knows he's in trouble. You have the Fugees reuniting right now. They're actually coming together for a last hurrah. Actually putting on, it's pretty much a farewell tour. Now, I don't know how long he will go away, but I mean, you're talking about somebody that could go away. I believe it's for 2.5. I think it's 24 years. I believe that's what if I'm remembering correctly. There's so many cases going on. Sometimes I blur the numbers together, but I believe it's 24 years because he's found guilty on 10 counts. Now, those 10 counts, let me actually pull this up too. 10 counts, if you didn't realize this. He was what a mess. Here it is. He was found guilty, though, of witness tampering. I'm pulling this up. He was found guilty of criminal conspiracy, witness tampering. I mean, just so many issues there. One of the things I thought was fascinating, too, he wanted to call Obama and Trump, and they wouldn't let him. I think that was actually pretty messed up, considering if they would have put them on trial, they would have to admit what kind of a problem this was. So they shot it down. He wasn't allowed to call them as hostile witnesses. He wanted to. I mean, he very much wanted to. I think that he should have been allowed to as well, because again, I mean, you're talking about people that they're definitely. They didn't have their hands on the money because politicians know better. But if you think that politicians aren't corrupt, there's a very fascinating guy. I read a book by recently, and he's actually pretty pretty honest. He strikes you as really honest. Like, he told on himself for quite a few things. He was a drug smuggler. His name was Roger Reeves. He actually wrote a book called, I think it was called Smuggler, if I'm remembering it correctly. Roger Reeves talked about in bringing in vast quantities of drugs, you didn't just have to sneak under the radar. What you did is you found somebody who was willing to accept lots of money. And he talked about how when the Clintons were over Arkansas, when they controlled Arkansas, he paid the Clintons millions of dollars. So he could basically run drugs through Arkansas and have no problems. And like I said, I would recommend, he actually reads his own book too. He's done a lot of interviews. I was curious about a lot of the stuff that he said. He was just pretty forthright. He was poor. He decided his way forward was to move to California, which you hear a lot of people do. He ended up getting. It reminded me at first the story of Blow. The way actually Blow leaves out a lot. By the way, if you ever get a chance to read the book that's illustrating, it's good. Blow is a great movie. Like, Depp did a fantastic job, but it misrepresents things like he never met up Pablo Escobar, for example. He says that in his book. He never actually had that face-to-face meeting, so that was incorrect. It makes for good TV, but that wasn't real. He did see some crazy stuff, but it wasn't Pablo Escobar that did it. It was some underlings. But they just gloss over his time in Mexico. I mean, they did some crazy stuff. Like, for example, we're talking about how you couldn't find a good runway in Mexico. So what he would do, they would land planes on highways because that was the best thing, the flattest thing you could find. Now, in order to do that, you would have vast strips of nothing connecting small towns, and that's what they wanted. They would go in, though, and they would chainsaw down the telephone lines. So they would go in and they would cut out a town's power out in the middle of nowhere, and on each side of the street, you would have corrupt police forces, sometimes the military. They would cut off roads, and they would land a plane right in the middle of the road, load up, leave. Like, I mean, that stuff is fascinating. So if you ever have a chance, actually pick it up on Audible. It's good. Yeah, I mean, it's very good. Especially if you want to understand more about, again, that role. I thought it was cool to kind of add that. But anyway, Reeves, the reason I mention all of that is because the political corruption scale. Yeah, I think Pras is guilty, very much so, but he's not the only person that's guilty. And I don't think that he had a fair trial because he wasn't allowed to call in the truly guilty because they're too big. I think there would have been noise about that too. If it only went one way, if Pras would have only been pointing the finger at one political party, I think you would have had coverage, people screaming from the rooftops about how messed up this was. But unfortunately for Pras, it indicted the entire political system. It wasn't something anybody could use for political currency. You couldn't just sit out there and yell, "Oh my God, the Obama campaign," or "Oh my God, the Trump campaign." Since you're yelling both, nobody wanted to talk about that. I mean, it's an inconvenient truth because, again, it goes beyond all the headlines and all the PR there. And he wasn't allowed to call in people that, I mean, he got some big names. And again, all those big names, of course, they were given immunity. No, no Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian, you talk about some crazy stories there. Kim Kardashian told the story where she was first hired by this guy to come to a party. $50,000 she was paid for a couple hours. And from there, she'd heard some stories about money and everything, how he liked to party and, how he was very giving there. So she ended up getting together with him. They ended up running around Las Vegas. And then she found herself in a casino. She decided she was going to leave. One of her friends, a redacted name, was like, no, you don't want to leave. You want to stay around because he's very giving with his winnings. Because, of course, he is. He's buying social currency. So she stays around. And he ends up gifting her $350,000, $250,000 of which she carries in a garbage bag onto a Southwest airline flight. She puts it in her carry-on luggage. Imagine carrying a $250,000 in your carry-on luggage, and then she gets her $100,000 later. He has to sign it over because it's so much money. And I mean, the stories in that are unreal. I did a video on that, but none of those folks paid anything. They may have to give restitution because again, that money came from Malaysia. We're talking about $4.5 billion in the biggest kleptocracy case we ever saw. Stolen money from the people. That's essentially what a kleptocracy case is, if you've never heard that term. And overseas, you had people pay. You actually had a few people with some political connection. Only one person at Goldman Sachs ends up falling on the sword. He actually, interestingly, had a lot of political connection. He was Hillary Clinton's favorite banker, I believe. So that I thought was fascinating. But again, this is not just a one. I always, when I say that stuff, I want to make it very clear. This was not a one-party corruption kind of thing. But a lot of people in high positions of powers overseas, they ended up paying the price. But here, none really at all. What's up, Uriel? What's up? Thanks for the 5. My second niece has been born. I'm proud to have her. Hey, congrats there. That's cool, dude. Yeah, what it's amazing time there too. So I'm proud for you. Props. Everybody give Uriel congratulations. That's awesome stuff. That is great. But anyway, I thought this was interesting because Pras will be sentenced soon. We'll find out exactly what kind of time he's going to be given. I'm curious. I don't know what to think about it. He's got to be given enough time. It depends on. He ran his mouth enough that I don't think he will be given. He doesn't have any friends out there left that are going to do him any favors. Let's just say, and he wasn't cooperative. I'm going to say enough. When he if he would have taken a deal or something right from go, if he would have admitted wrongdoing, he was still falling on the sword. But what would have happened is he would have fallen on the sword behind the scenes. We wouldn't have had this big trial. It wouldn't have caused embarrassment. So he would have probably been cut some kind of deal. They would have made an example out of him. They would have promoted a specific narrative, but that narrative, you know how that goes. Again, they could have just hushed it up. They could have pushed it on through, and there would have been nothing at all to say about it. Fallen Hero, thank you for the gifted membership there. Somebody just wrote me about Flashcast. Did any of you catch Flashcast this week? Oh, Lord. What a mess. What a mess. Oh, I don't know if any of you did. If you did, give me a second here. I'm lighting something. I need to light. If you did, oh Lord. It was kind of a train wreck. So it wasn't the fun kind of train wreck. Well, I didn't enjoy it. It was high drama. But I don't know. Like, I don't enjoy. I don't know a lot. Like some of you may know this. Any of you that are more familiar with online stuff, there's a sphere of online influence. They call it blood sports. It's basically people get together. It's highly dramatic, and people duke it out. I don't like that stuff. I find it to be off-putting. I don't want to. In life, I don't want to be. Like when I'm online, I want to be just like I am in life. I don't want to be edgy. I don't need that. I feel like I'm too old, and I feel like I don't want to offend people. I don't need to I don't need to do that. You know, if I offend people with my opinions, that's okay. But I don't want to intentionally offend people, and I don't want to argue with a bunch of idiots online. I know you hear me lighting that again. I didn't bake the end of that good, but that basically, oh, it was like blood sports the other night. It was kind of, it was kind of a mess. It involved, I just, I don't know. If anybody caught that though, I just, I will not be doing that kind of stuff again. I won't. I came in late to the stream. I was like, I came on there to talk about the Danny Masterson trial. Actually, I came in. I thought there was a good discussion going on. You know, there was a discussion about independent comment. By the way, we are right there finishing from the artist. You know, he's fixing some stuff, but I have some new. I got to put up an update. Like I said, I know I'm running behind there. 4 months of sickness. We're trying to make that up as fast as we can. So I apologize for that. But there was a discussion about storytelling and stuff. It was actually pretty good, you know. And then from there, it just went. Like I said, I don't know how many people caught it, but it was a mess. It was awkward. Yeah, you know, where was this? Oh, it was on. I was talking about Flashcast. So Saturday nights, you know, we have Flashcast, and I I have been on this show for a long time because Yellow Flash and I consider Yellow Flash a friend. So it's one of the only shows I go on there. Like, yeah, you know, it's a show that there's no incentive except to go hang out with friends. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something I've done. Like, we can talk about, catch up on stuff. It's good. Most of the time, it's fun too. I mean, you have people that we may disagree on some stuff, but that's okay. It always comes out pretty fun. But that just drifted into some chaos, and not the good kind of chaos. You know, we've had some flashcasts that were a lot of fun, like just really chaotic fun. You know, there was a drinking stream once, for example, and you know, Flash was trying to play his mic like a kazoo. That was really funny. You know, I had a lot of fun like that. That's chaos, right? And you've had disagreements where people, you know, they argue about something. Like, let's just say, no, this has not happened, but let's just say we had differing opinions on a case here. Like, you know, you could get into an argument, but it's amongst friends. You know, it's not gonna. You're gonna live and let live at the end of the day. But the stuff from that is still it's still playing out online. It's so I hate the drama, man. I don't mind. I don't mind drama when it comes from like say the AH Sims. Like if they bring some, fuck all them. I don't care about them. But I hate it when it's just like I said, the highly dramatic internet drama. I don't know if you've ever like you've seen drama channels. I'm sure you run across them on on the on YouTube sometimes. You know, they're just high drama all the time. They're spilling the tea on one another, calling out other like I hate that shit. Like I don't enjoy it. I feel like it's a soap opera, and I don't want to live it. Plus, it always eats the people involved, always. And ugh, like I said, I feel like that is what the other day became, and I think everybody that ended up it kinda it kinda just came out of the blue. Again, it was comic related, but I don't think anybody wants a repeat of that, so if that doesn't mean anything to you, by the way, if you didn't see it, you're all good. But if you did, I rated some of the commentary there. Yeah, the drama is quite destructive. Well, it is, you know? It is. Drama's always it's always there. EBS and Ripa. There wasn't really any drama like Ripa and EBS. I don't really consider that. I mean, they were talking about. You had a conversation about. At first, it was constructive. I think talking about. And again, you can have disagreement, but there was a conversation over criticism, and I think it was a constructive conversation because you had two people. You have Ethan Van Sciver. He's an industry veteran. He's a DC Comics industry veteran that ended up like doing a lot better on his own. He ended up going through some crazy stuff and ended up, doing his own thing online, and much for the better of him, I would say. He and Ripa, oh, Mr. Ripa. I like Eric July. That's who's behind that. He runs the Ripaverse, and his first comic was quite the splash. He made over $3 million with his first comic. It was a heck of a hit there. But they were talking about, criticism, the merits of criticism. They were talking about story structure. There was disagreement with it, but I thought it was good. But then it went crazy from there. Like I said, I don't even want to go into that. I just, like I said, I didn't know how many, but I like, if I live stream with people, typically I like Eric July. Eric July is a good dude. Like anytime there's been a problem too, when all these crazy people, they came after like any of us folks, like Eric was one of the people that have your back, beyond that though. I mean, here's the thing too, the construction, like I make indie comics and we're learning this on the fly. We're not I want to offer an alternative to companies that have just been awful there, but we're not talking about being in an industry for 40 years plus. I mean, these are independent things. I'm not saying that to say anything about quality or anything, but you're learning this craft. You learn it on the fly, and you make mistakes along the way. You learn the craft better. You learn everything from, like I had to learn, like for comics, we've done two, and this is our third one. But I had to learn about printing, for example. I had no idea how you made a comic book, like paper selection. What are the differences? I learned actually that the mainstream paper quality is awful. They use the lowest quality paper. That's why it has those nasty little ripples in it and stuff. Versus, we'll use much heavier stuff. And along the way, I mean, you learn everything from storycraft to, how many pages actually will go in a specific type of binding. I mean, it's all, like I said, it's all new. And your teams are typically artists, like writers, maybe some people that come on to do incentivized stuff. And besides that, I mean, like I said, you don't have, you just learn it on the fly. And you make mistakes along the ways, you mess up stuff. That was one of the things, like with for our new comic, 4 months, one of the issues, health, it didn't just slow down, made mistakes that there weren't supposed to be. So we have to go back and we had to correct some stuff too. But it did slow down productivity as well. But anyway, I think that those are constructive, even if you vehemently disagree on some of the stuff in that. But yeah, I mean, I think like an Eric July. So an Eric July, his first comic book was a monster success. I mean, again, we're talking about a guy who made over $3 million for a comic book. He sold tens of thousands of copies. I mean, he outdid a lot of the mainstream comic books out there. And as such, I think oftentimes people don't look at that as an indie comic anymore. They look at it in the same realm as maybe an Image comic that had been put out. If you don't know comic structure, there's a there's a few main companies, and one of those, Image Comics, they promote a lot of independence, but oftentimes the independents that they have, they've been in that industry for a long time. I mean, really, you're seeing fans of an industry that pretty much broke down and treated people like garbage, creating their own products. And I think that's an important thing, creating choice again. But I think a lot of people forget it's also your own type of storytelling. I had many people tell me, like Money, for example. Hey, if you didn't do an all ages comic book, oh, you can make more money, you could do this and that. But the thing is, that's what I wanted to do. I thought it would be fun. My kids can be involved. Like they can see themselves as superheroes. And, other people can enjoy it too. You can have a detective comic book, you can have a sidekick out there. But for them, I mean, it means something. I think that's fun. I think that's good. And in the long run, I think that audience, like the audience, I appreciate everyone in the magazine. I like that people enjoy it. But the audience, I really want to remember it over time, are the kids. I want them to be like, man, here's a testament to everything that withstands, again, test of time. Anyway. Let's see. Gloria, thanks for the 5. The same with being an indie author. Yeah, you have to learn as you go. Editing is important. Editing is a difficult thing to learn as well. Your artists, and there's also this thing too. Your artists are learning a lot more. Your artists, like S.K. Bennett, for example, is a talented creator, but SK loves to challenge himself. He is a perfectionist. And the style that he chose for this is one of it is insanely complicated style. Let me show you a couple of new pages. I'm actually going to put them in an update, but I'm just going to bring them up here. Give me 1 minute, okay? I'll bring them up while we're there. I don't want to give away. I've been reserved about showing too much, because I don't want to ruin the book that we're doing, because I think people will enjoy it. But at the same time, I do want to show that we actually, we do have some progress. Give me 1 minute. It's going to take me a second here because I have to pull this up. But yeah, I mean, it's a learn as you go. But like I said, there's just a lot of craziness from that. And if you missed out on that, then that doesn't mean anything to you, and more the merrier. But if you did catch it, that's not the kind of stuff I like to do online. I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy slap fighting with other freaking creators. I'm not saying I've never done that. By the way, I'm not saying I've never gotten into it with other creators. We're human, but as I've gotten more situated in it, you have to like one of the things that you have to remember through all of this as a creator, not you, but like for myself, I have to remember that I can do good with this. I can do harm too. Like an independent creator, I get in a slap fight with them. I could actually harm their projects. I could destroy what they do, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. That's not to say that like criticism or something, that doesn't work. But I just don't want to. Yeah, you want to do something, I guess, positive. If we want to see change, we can be that change, I guess, is a good example. I'm not saying that, I don't give any love to the mainstream or anything with that. But indie creators, I feel a little bit more responsibility, and that's a learned thing. So here's something that I've liked. Here's a page that SK was just finishing up, and you can see like detail work he puts in. It's sometimes it's hard to see in proofing. I mean, look at that. Like I was watching him create this too, actually come up with the design, the overlap for arms, the detailing, all the detail that goes in. You can see with the creature, how they detail in, how they look. Like, again, a lot of work there, and there's just the mechanics of it. They're actually that are time consuming too. The mechanics of getting all of this right, making sure there's no issue there. And SK colors, he draws colors, it does everything. He's an everything person on this. So I mean, you can even see like, the a little bit of fur on the back because it's a bat-like creature. You see that, and also with the character design, there's stuff going on in there, but you can see like the detail. It's fun. Like I said, I put together comic books. My when I started doing this, my daughter would wander in. I started doing this when my oldest was 5. Really just kicking off, and she would come in. We had an avatar for her. That's the little umbrella girl. That was her avatar at the time. So putting together, the first comic book, it was fun, goofing off, but it was also just she would come on and tell stories, and we put in some stories that, she did and everything. And for anyone else, I mean, we're telling a detective story, an all ages detective story. But again, for her or the other ones, we or the littlest one, we could have, oh man, that's dad and me. And that's the way they look at it, we're on an adventure. The littlest one's fine because she recognizes herself in pictures. She'd be like, "Oh, that's me." She'll actually say, "That's my," and then use her name. So it's kinda it's cute. But I mean, again, you look at like I say, the detail work. We wanna put together the best work that we can, but we're not a Marvel, even Image Comics. So in Image Comics, here's a thing to understand about comic books too. Image Comics, when they were first out, one of their huge problems was that they could not meet timelines. You had people like Todd McFarlane. He's huge now. He makes Spawn. A lot of people know that. Also Venom. The design work for Venom. Yeah, that's him. Well, he broke away back in the 90s. A bunch of these folks did. They broke away. They created their own thing. But when they were independents, they had real problems meeting deadlines because they were doing all of this on their own. They were meeting it, and for they were industry professionals. So again, for us, we try to meet deadlines, but with like a Marvel creator or like even an Image creator, they have presses that they can use that are right there. They can print their own stuff. Us, we have to send out our work. We have to sample it. It's a fun. It's it is a process. It is a fun process sometimes, but it is an arduous process too. So like with the project that's going on currently, like I said, I realized we had been behind on it. And this is the first comic we've actually had that with, but health really threw it off. I mean, I think that is a giant key component, 4 months, almost right on 5 months of health issues. Anyway. Yeah, Spawn on HBO was right. Yeah, I mean, Todd McFarlane's amazing. Todd McFarlane he's a great creator. He he's also a pretty damn good professional. He keeps it where he should. He's like, I don't know, a lot of you know who Mike Millar is. You might know what was it, Jupiter's Legacy, the show that came on Netflix. What was that? God, what was that show? Angelina Jolie. You remember that movie where they could bend bullets around corners and stuff? They were assassins, and Angelina Jolie, she was like one of the assassins. That's a Mike Millar story. I can't think of the freaking name. Somebody will remind me in just a moment. But yeah, those guys. I mean, they understand. Go out, appease the fans, treat them well, and also make good products. Yeah, Wanted. Yeah, thank you. That was that book, by the way, it is freaking violent, but it is a fascinating story. Actually, one of the best stories. If you have never, so that Jupiter's Legacy got canceled, unfortunately, and it had one season, and that one season, It had some disjointing issues, but having read the source material, I thought it did a good job of presenting some of the source material stuff. They added in things that they shouldn't have, though. They had budgeting issues, timeline issues with the show. But if you've never read any of that, that is an amazing read. There's 5 trade paperbacks of it. I freaking love that story. I think it's an amazing one. And if you watched that first season and you liked it even a little, the source material is absolutely amazing to it. I like some people don't like this more modern, kind of a nihilistic approach to heroes. Heroes is flawed people. There was a series at one time, Powers. They actually Powers ended up getting I think 2 seasons. I forget on which network. There was a show made of it, but they presented a lot of ideas that were new. For example, they had a Superman type character that was coming down with late stage dementia. Like, what would happen then? What if someone had the power of a mad god and they were coming down with dementia? Like, that's a scary idea, and it shows heroes as flawed characters. I kind of like that. I also like the Superman's gone bad or rogue, stuff like that too. Hey, what's up, kiddo?
I found all their Christmas stuff. Well, not all of it, but like some of it. Found 2 gingerbread houses and a Christmas tree pretzel dipping kit.
A pretzel dipping kit too?
Yeah, I can go get it if you don't believe me.
No, they were were they on top of their fridge, or did somebody move them down? Were they the ones that were on top of the fridge?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you wanting to do something with them?
Can I make them?
If you want to, have at it. Only open one at a time though. Make one today. Pick out the one you want to make and make it. But yeah, if you want to. Yeah, I bought a bunch of them so y'all can do that.
At Gigi's house. But I can't do it at Gigi's house because it ain't Christmas no more.
Well, you can do it here. Yeah, go get one. You can play with it if you want to.
I think we should do a gingerbread house instead of the pretzel.
Okay, we'll make a gingerbread house if you want to. Yeah, I when they had all the Christmas like decor stuff, the gingerbread houses and stuff, I bought a bunch of them when they clearanced them. They took them from like $30 to $3. I bought a bunch of them because the kids enjoy making stuff like that. So I put a few back, and she was like, "Hey, I just found a few of those." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure you just found a few of them. Just accidentally stumbled on them." But no, I mean, the kids love to do crafts and stuff. They like to make both of them like to create stuff, but the elder, I mean, she likes to make things all the freaking time. So anyway, I think I'm going to go help with the gingerbread house then. So I think tonight was a good live stream. I think we had a fun one. But anyway, I'll probably leave this one up. I really, out of anything, I hope people too. I hope you mention this stuff like to other people about what happened with Brock. I think I think all of that is important because there's been a lot of nastiness pointed Brock's way. Oh, also too, I noticed that there is I'm just going to say MW. Thank you for the 20. There was a 20 that came through on PayPal. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that too. I want to give you a shout out as well. But anyway, I will catch you all. Maybe we'll do one tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's some fascinating conversations out there yet to be made. So we'll see. But anyway, I'll see you later.